friends, fellow human beings, luminaries, and bloritaries. Welcome to your one, your only Monday! Hey! Woo-hoo-hoo! Let's go! Monday! Yeah, buddy! Huge win. Huge W Monday. We love it. We love it when you show up and disrupt our weekend. Yes! We're here. We're here for it. Welcome in, everybody. Starting it off real happy, real excited. Probably way too much energy for you, but it's not raining outside anymore. We had a lot of rain over the weekend, and it's sunny now, so I'm excited. But I've actually got some interesting stuff to talk about today. Drama-ish. It's Monday. It's drama day. We're going to talk about item recovery, definitely. I'm not super... You'll find that my opinion is not super strong one way or the other on item recovery, but I'm sure we'll have a nice, colorful discussion about that. I am hitting you guys with the RSI Apollo this week's ship of the week, the one for us to talk about. And honestly, I want to talk about like medical gameplay as a whole, not just the Apollo. So that should be a fun little topic. I want to hit up moderation in Star Citizen because it's starting to become a real pain point for a lot of people. And then really we're just going to talk other questions. And actually, is that it? Hold on. I got segments, right? I got it planned out for you. 4.1 as a whole. We're going to talk about why people are excited about that. Because I see some questions. People are like, why? Why do you care about 4.1? Yeah, ship of the week, PK. It's how we make things more exciting, okay? We just call them of the week. Last but not least, Mrs. Tomato, we're going to have to find out why this camera is low frame rate. This is such a weird camera. I don't understand it. YouTube, hey, you guys, am I transmitting through YouTube? Are we online? Is this working? Hello? I actually don't know if we're transmitting to YouTube right now. Nobody has said anything. YouTube's working. Okay. Thank you guys. Because Twitch is like over here chatting it up. I genuinely didn't see a single message on YouTube today. Except for the toes. From Max Minef. Thank you for that. Alright. As long as you guys are there. RPG fan. It's spring break right now? Oh. Well, that is an exciting day. It's also St. Patrick's Day. You guys got your green on? Everybody have green on? I'm serious. Anybody who is sitting next to somebody watching this stream and they are rude enough to put me on loud so you have to listen, pinch the person next to you if they don't have green on. Do it. Need to talk about why CIG needs to change to Unreal. Out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here. The responses to the podcast today have been actually really enjoyable. I've been loving watching the conversation going on. Had a good talk with 10 Pound 42 about Star Citizen's performance lately regarding various CPU and GPU configurations, but also just from the general improvements they've been making to the game. And it was a really good talk. I highly suggest if you're interested in hearing a little more about the actual tangible progress they've been making. 10 Pound is known for doing actual benchmarking of this game. It's not just feels with him. He gets solid data on how Star Citizen is running, and he's got good things to report. They need to keep doing what they're doing, but it seems like they've been doing well this first quarter. The funny thing is, somebody commented on the podcast, and they were like, because I think I named the podcast something like Star Citizen is improving. They were like, improving where? I'm like, dude, well, watch the podcast. Let's see. Low light compensation. It's got some settings on it. What is that? Just like contrast settings, I think. Recording, dynamic zoom. Maybe if I turn off all these gesture controls. We don't need all that fancy stuff, right? You guys just want to see the camera. That's all we need. It's a camera. Tell me you've not to watch the podcast without telling me you've. I mean, it's not just improvements as in the missions are running better. It's like this game genuinely has finally started to round a corner on being somewhat dependent on your hardware configuration. And while I think the bar is still too high for like baseline gameplay, I'm glad that at least high-end PCs are getting like pretty good performance in this game now. Did you read our Apollo Hopium? Yeah, my Apollo Hopium is basically going to be going over what the Apollo is, the details of it, and why I think that it shouldn't come out without a medical gameplay upgrade. And so why I might be giving some disappointing news because we haven't seen anything about a medical upgrade. Well, disappointing for me. I think either way, it's going to either release without a medical upgrade, which would be really silly, or it's going to release with a medical upgrade, which I don't think anybody thinks is coming this year. That being said, radiation is part of actor state. This is all going to be part of our talk. We'll get to that, okay? That's the Hopium part. Overall, the game has improved a lot. You can log in and play without game-breaking issues. I still have some real bad ones. Those were in the PTU, though. I want to see what Live 4.1 looks like. 4.1 Live could be a sweet little something. Or it could just be the same old nothing. We'll see. I'm hopeful that it gets rid of like falling through the planet. I think that's one of the big things right now. Granted, that doesn't kill you. That's a huge, detractor of progress. And I don't think we should be reliant on workarounds to avoid bugs. I know that's how you play Star Citizen well. That's what we're all used to. But let's start getting to reliability. I've been saying it the whole freaking time. Never change this view. Once server meshing dropped, the temperature goes up on expectations. Server meshing's here. So from here on, I'm a lot more like we need to be in a better place for the state of the game as opposed to just experimenting. Should be under device properties in OBS. No, it's not an OBS thing. It's lagging in the software before it even reaches OBS. What's up, Maverick? How you doing? Good to see you. I'm giving everybody a cool chance to roll in. It's a Monday. We're slow to start. I understand. We'll wait. These are much more segmented shows, so I don't want to get started before everybody's in here ready to go. This is a little QA session. If you guys have something you want to talk about before we get into the news and stuff, feel free to throw it in chat. What in your mind do you consider a significant next step in medical gameplay? Well, it's gotta be. Hey, no, you can't get me. That's the Apollo talk. We'll get there. Tricking me. Get me into the conversation early. Silly. Okay, I'll give you just one hint. We definitely need to have resources connected to respawning. That's a start. Because the Apollo's gotta be a go-to mobile respawn. I just get dragged into it, man. Maverick, thank you for the bits, dude. Appreciate you. Rycob, sorry to remind you it's Monday, but it's at least it's a kind of a holiday, in a way, sort of, kind of. It's supposed to finally come this year. We'll see if there's a medical refactor or not. They didn't say it's coming this year. They just said it's being worked on. Matt, glad you liked the podcast. I quite enjoyed it too. 10 pounds, always a good time, good talk. You can't speak for others, as you are you and not them. But after the last live patch, SC has been running great for you. The 4.0.2. Respawn goo. We need the med goo. Imagine losing AUEC every time you die. Hey man, if somebody's gonna have to come and retrieve your body, you're paying for it, all right? Let's be honest. Like the idea of paying money to respawn in a game makes so much sense in a game like Star Citizen. The universe in this game is up. It's messed up. Like, it's not a good time. It's very similar to other things like Hard Space Shipbreaker, if you ever played that, and you load in and they're like, you've got 99 million credits of debt. That's the kind of stuff a company would do in Star Citizen. They just haven't really made it that clear yet. Don't destroy your Apollo dreams. I'll try not to. It'll be soft. 1,000 cuts instead of 1 stab, huh? What are your thoughts on the state of the type of donuts in the world? And if you could invent a new donut, what would it be? Well, I have not really dipped too far into the donut culture for a long time. I used to be pretty progressive in that space. Not so much making my voice known. Not, delving into r/donut or donut 9gag memes or getting into the donut circles on Google+. But I definitely was around, making, traveling, going to Donut Con, and I had a couple of posters of some of my favorite donuts. Those were signed. Very high value. I think those are still boxed up. But I think donuts right now are doing okay. With the state of the world and everything, it's hard to put too much pressure on them. They have a lot to live up to. And the 2010s were really big for donuts. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they'll make a comeback. But for now, the cookies are really treading into their territory. And I think cookies are making a huge stand. So we'll keep an eye on that. But see, there it is, right in chat. Vassen says cookies are better. It's a war on cookies, honestly. They're trying to cancel donuts. And that's why I think the 20s are going to be a big battleground for that. But regardless, donuts are doing okay. Timber, it's actually kind of insane. It's actually really insane that you said voodoo donuts in the Pacific Northwest, because when I was, I don't actually partake in donut culture. That was all just BS what I just said. But I did go to a really, really cool donut shop called Voodoo Donuts in Portland in like the year 2013, 14 maybe. And that was probably like my most donut-y adventure because the line was freaking out the door down the street. It was like a whole thing. I had looked it up beforehand. Donuts are cool though, but yeah, the cookies are really killing it lately. Blame the Canadians. They're not representing donut-wise. They used to. You went there like 20 years ago? That's crazy how long they've been around. Good for them. Good for donuts. We have a hype train going on Twitch. How did that happen? Dude, what does it take to start a hype train? My good lordy. Maverick, thank you for the 10 bits, dude. Did I miss No, I didn't miss anything else. That's okay. Thanks, Twitch, for that. And Tasty Doom, thank you for the Prime sub, mate. Appreciate you. Gumbo, good to see you, man. Good to see you. All right. Y'all ready to start talking about things? Because it's on the thumbnail, and because I know this stream will be ripped apart if we don't start with it, let's get into the Apollo. The RSI Apollo. Why would I be talking about this? For anybody who has missed or might just be getting caught up on the ship for the first time in a while, the RSI Apollo was actually, obviously, in active development about... Ooh, let's see if we can find this video. I believe... Here.
Boxes, and because of how they can fit
the RSI Apollo was in the works back in October of
North
2023.
America vehicle content team
October of 2023. Check this out.
Bringing the Origin X1 to life, which you can see here is undergoing just a few minor changes from its concept, necessitated by continuing development of the vehicle component and resource management systems. Now, while this is still white box, that hasn't stopped the team from also visualizing some baked-in lighting improvements, and overall, even with the subtle shape changes...
For clarity, this is not the Apollo, this is the X1. Let's there we go. Okay. Sorry.
We've also got a brief look inside the white box progress of the RSI Apollo medevac, which is currently in production.
It's actually kind of large. I mean, you get the sense that it is large. I can pull up let me pull up a concept image here real quick. When you look at the concept images, you can kind of tell that it's a relatively big ship, but at the same time, I wouldn't blame you for thinking it's not that big. You know what? Screw this. It's so much easier to just search on Google. RSI Apollo. Oh, here we are. So there's a this image right here. This is, I think, the closest shot to what we're seeing in this video right here. Right? It's like the same area. I think let's let this go forward a little bit. Right there. So that's that. And obviously it does look kind of big in this image in the concept art, but this just it looks almost as long as like a constellation here to me. And that might just be perspective. Could be the camera, could be anything. But this is the interior they were working on back in 2023. Honestly, I really like this ship. I would love to use this as like an exploration ship, even though it's obviously for medical gameplay. It's just beautiful. So that is what we knew of the Apollo at the end of 2023. Now, after that, everybody was so pumped. We were like, ooh, it's in the works. Next year, 2023, or no, next year's 2024, we're going to see squadron updates coming in, which means maybe some medical stuff. Oh, yeah. But the big thing with the Apollo that's easy to forget is that it is dependent on drones. That's one of its big features. It's got Shepherd Medilift drones. So here on the wiki it says, each Apollo comes equipped with 2 Medilift semi-automated emergency extraction pods, each capable of lifting up to 500 pounds quickly and securely from ground to ship. Each drone, that's pretty good because every single person in the entire game is like made to look like they weigh 180 pounds. Each drone is outfitted with payload preservation armor, auto gyro stabilization, okay, maybe like 150, 160, I don't know, and shock balance absorption technology to maximize patient safety and comfort throughout extraction. So it is just a
Thank you very much.
They're little drone beds. You can see one right here on the side. These are for basically you get to stay in the ship and you can send the drone out. And I wouldn't imagine the drone isn't able to be piloted directly by you. So maybe there's like a mini game aspect to getting to the person, getting them onto the bed and getting them back to the ship. That could be part of medical gameplay. It's not reliant on beams, but it might also not be necessarily like surgery. But again, that's the sort of thing that this ship might depend on. So as we go through the talk today, just kind of keep that in mind that they could release this ship without drones, but like with other medical gameplay, I think it would very much make the ship kind of pointless to come out right now, and ultimately mean they would have to go back and redesign it once they figured out how the drones would fit in. Because as you can see here, in the concept image, they have a door down here. Imagine they make this door and then they realize drones just simply have to be a certain shape. And they have to come back to the ship and then remake the size of the door, which means, oh no, you have to push one of the side walls over here out to the side, which means moving a component up here, which means changing the whole interior of a ship. Surprise, surprise, that's what we see happen with like something like what the Reclaimer is going to go through. So I don't think they'd make the mistake of releasing this without the drone gameplay. But that's not to also include medical gameplay. So recently, outside of this 2023 stuff, the ship kind of disappeared again for the whole of 2024 until we got to CitizenCon, where at the end of the ship panel...
No need to adjust your TV.
I always do this. Literally always. like every
This
stream.
is the crafting area.
At the end of this video about the new ships coming in, we got to look at your boy. There we go. The RSI Apollo. And we've gone through this. We know this is the Apollo. So what this video states is ships being worked on in the next 12 months. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean the ships releasing in the next 12 months.
Can't just leave without teasing a little bit more. So let's have a quick look at just some, emphasis on some, of the vehicles that we're working on in the next 12 months.
See, the real emphasis was that we're working on. I love how he emphasizes some when some is really not the important part of that sentence. The important part is that they're not planning on releasing all these in the next 12 months. So as exciting as this list was, because it's got some really cool stuff in it, some of these ships will not be out this year. And the Apollo could be one of those. It literally could just be that they are getting the gray box done and then they're going to put it away for another year. And the same could be said about something like the Ironclad or the Perseus. But I think those are more likely than the Apollo. So all that being said, let's go back to the actual video, the ship shape, where they tell us what the heck the Apollo is, because that's kind of what the people have been waiting for. This was released all the way back in 2018 when the ship was first revealed. These were fun segments too.
Greetings, citizens, and welcome to another edition
This is actually,
of Ship.
I think this is kind of what they're trying to get back to with this whole, whatever their segment is that they're calling for the ships every month. I miss Ship Shape though.
Shape, the show where we give you the rundown on what's in the
Oh,
ship.
wait a second. I'm sorry. The hype train stuff. I missed a whole bunch of stuff that just, I'm so sorry. Maverick, thank you for the bits, dude. Captain J Wolf with the sub. Thaki gifting out 5 subs. I was just on a rant, wasn't I? I missed that completely. Appreciate you, dude. Macathet with the Prime sub. Using that Prime. And Texas Horny Toad. Love a horny toad. Appreciate you guys. Banu Merchantman when? I'll say this. I think the Banu Merchantman will come out when they get player shops working. That's when I think we can start working on it. Mrs. Tomato, are you okay? I swear I just heard her hollering out in the other room. All right, here we go. Ship shape.
Ship development pipeline. Who's working on what? Provide interviews with developers, and occasionally debut a brand new ship being added to Star Citizen's pantheon of spaceships. I'm your host, content manager Jared Huckabee. Now, behind me, you see the ship pipeline. That's the ever-evolving, continuously refined network of phases, milestones, and review checks necessary to ensure you the...
This is also in the video we watched earlier. They mentioned that the Apollo was in white box. If you're interested in understanding what the heck they're talking about when they say that stuff, I have a video. If you just type in Star Citizen ships are made, I guess how Star Citizen ships are made. I think it's one of the videos that pops up. Yeah. I need to retitle this so it's easier to search. This video will take you through the entire process of what you're seeing behind him here. White box, gray box, final art, flight ready, all that stuff. It's really interesting. Right now it is an 18-month process, supposedly, according to the what Execute learned at CitizenCon. But it's a pretty cool summary of how these ships are even created, because it's a lot more complicated than you'd think.
best possible spaceship for your Star Citizen experience. And it's been a while since we've given the full rundown on what's being worked on and where. So let's get things started and jump right into things, shall we?
Pragma Ones, thank you so much for the Prime sub, mate. Appreciate you.
3.2 to our live environment, a new wave of ships have begun their journeys through the pipeline. It's with that news that I'm pleased to report that the Origin 300 series, stalwart of the original Kickstarter campaign, has officially begun its rework and is currently sitting in the earliest stages of white box phase.
This was the first ship. This ship got me to pledge this game. The 325A was what got me into Star Citizen all the way back in like 2014. And the rework of it, this was the first time, I think, besides maybe the Cutlass Black or the Freelancer, that we saw a ship go from like its old model to its new model. I don't think they did a good job with this, to be honest. But the old one was pretty hard to use. You're confused. What is the real difference between the Apollo variants? When would you use one and definitely not the other? The difference is missiles and thicker armor, I believe. So one of them is meant for battlefields where you're going to be getting shot at and you might need to shoot back. And the other one is meant for like general medical clinic, just flying around, handling respawns, little injuries and things like that.
Where it's not alone. Keeping it company is the Banu Defender and the luxurious 890 Jump. Now, on last week's ATV, Chris gave you a few moments sneak peek at the early white box for the 890 Jump box. And
it's so freaking crazy to look back at these. Like, this is not the point of this video. It's just wild that the 890 Jump is so old that we don't even consider its development anymore. But it's funny to look back at it being made like this.
It's yet to be determined if this layout will be the one that gets the green light. We thought it'd be fun.
This was not the one that got the green light.
To highlight this early, very malleable stage of a ship's overall development for you.
Okay, let's jump forward to the Apollo though. The reason we are here. Here we go. Anonymous gifter, thank you for gifting out a community sub. All of y'all with the Prime subs sticking it to Amazon. I see you.
Flesh out its various gameplay systems and professions. And one of those that's captured the imagination of backers since the introductions of the Cutlass Red and Endeavor Hope is that of assisting your fellow player when personal injury strikes your character. Yes, medical gameplay and its design is ready to step back into the spotlight this month with the addition of our next concept ship to Star Citizen. Let's go to the ship teams in our Foundry 42 UK studio and let them introduce us to the brand new Apollo medical ship from Roberts Space Industries.
The RSI Apollo is a new medical ship. It's from RSI, which didn't get a new ship in a long while. We have two medical ships at the moment.
They get new ships all the time.
Announced in the game, which is the Cutlass Red, which is basically
there's the old Cutlass Red model.
On the Endeavor with its hospital module.
And there's the old Endeavor model.
Really massive and really engaged.
Like, they're gonna have to find a reason to make this flying around with the hospital viable. That's gonna take NPCs. This is like, there's going to be huge expansions to NPC gameplay after Star Citizen 1.0. They're just gonna have to be.
So we needed something in between.
We had quite a short timeline on this one for a medium ship. So really early on, I did a quick sketch of the interior, passed it to concept artist and was like, something like this, and it kind of stuck basically. And it works well with RSI styling. The ship still has its flow, you know, it's still quite sleek and sexy, but you know, it's got all that angularness to it. It's like a Lamborghini, turn it into a spaceship.
The RSI Apollo is basically like a small clinic that you can go to the edge of space. This has a capacity of 6 patients.
Yeah, so there's a lot of space dedicated to the medical stuff. Obviously, it's a medical ship, but that's part of why. Let's see how much storage this thing has. It's really small storage back here. I think if it had bigger storage, you could have this be an exploration ship even without removing the medical. Because what we'll find out is that it's 3 tier 3 beds or 1 tier 1 bed or anything in between. So you could have 2 tier 1 beds on here, 6 tier 3 beds, 4 tier 2 beds, something like that. And it would be like 2 tier 1 beds is pretty good for a 2 to 3 person, maybe a 4 or 5 person exploration trip. I don't know. I'm just trying to convince myself I can do it.
With 6 beds, a crew of 2 at the front with 2 ejection beds. And it has a size 2 turret on the top of the ship at the rear, which is more a point defense turret rather than something made for dogfights or anything. And this is a remote turret.
They could make variants of the
ship.
It
has also 28 SCU of cargo at the back.
And then you've got medical.
Did he say 28 SCU?
So 28 SCU.
Okay, that's pretty good. 28 SCU? Dang.
SCU of cargo at the back.
And then you've got medical bay space. It's always that sort of fine line between sort of reality sci-fi and gameplay. So it's, okay, we need to basically spawn a player here. But we
It
don't
does,
want
honestly. This does have a nicer looking interior than the Connie. How long is this? Connie is what, like 70 something meters long? Is 43? How long is the Constellation? If they made like a gunship version of this, how many people would switch from the Andromeda to this? If they made a gunship version of this, would it be able to compete with the Paladin? Oh my gosh, what a thought. Like somewhere around the Redeemer Paladin, but from RSI. Constellation. 63 meters long. This is only 20 meters shorter than the Connie. That's the difference between what? Like the Starlancer TAC, the Starlancer and the Retaliator. That's not huge. I could see people switching to this if they made variants.
popping in. So the player will be delivered. There's a glass cover on top, sort of protecting the player.
Yeah, I don't think they'll reuse the
Processes
chassis,
it will
but
have
I could see it.
like an opaque glass when there's nobody in it, and then you'll hear noises and probably lights will come on, and the bed will activate, and then a person will arrive. The glass turns transparent.
Okay, so he's sorry. Let me start this over. He's explaining how this whole drone reception thing would work.
From sort of reality sci-fi and gameplay. So it's okay, we need to basically spawn a player here, but we don't want him popping in. So the player will be delivered. There's a glass cover on top, sort of protecting the player. The thought process is that we'll have essentially like an opaque glass when there's nobody in it, and then you'll hear noises and probably lights will come on, and the bed will activate, and then a person will arrive. The glass turns transparent, and you're like, okay, that the bed's occupied.
What if there's somebody in the room?
That's how we've developed it at the moment. It's kind of like a self-healing unit. So
Oh, sorry.
I have a disc that scans the person, finds out what's wrong with them, heals them, and then it opens up and off they go. And so with this ship, you'll be able to pick up people, fix people up, ship them back.
Dude, what is this? Kill it, burn it, Jesus.
Out the door, so it can be, obviously there'll be medical gameplay.
That we plan is, even if regular ships can do something with medical gameplay, like a player could help other people in the future, you will need medical ships if you want really to pursue the medical career in the game.
The final result I'm really happy with, and it's just sort of going through it basically, and so that's just been a process of refinement, just pushing and pushing.
Every time I see this R22, shout out to all my HVAC people out there, I keep thinking it's a freaking reference to like the refrigerant used in the ship. I'm like, well, you guys are archaic, come on.
Sort of going through it basically, and so that's just been a process of refinement, just pushing and pushing and okay, add this, tweak this, all the lines. Generally, you generally try and avoid parallel lines.
We've worked hard to do a good layout that will please every player and that is really aesthetically pleasing as well. So I think this is
God,
a
I
really
love that red, holy crap.
good ship, and this is bringing new kind of gameplay, so it looks good.
What do you guys think if medical ships had a designation that if they got shot in the verse, any crime towards them would be considered a higher crime than otherwise? Like, I think if they neutered the medical ships so they couldn't do too much damage, that'd be reasonable. People would definitely exploit that if you had like a medical ship with guns and it was higher crime to attack you. Obviously, that'd be a problem. But do you guys think it'd be reasonable to have higher crimes for attacking these types of ships if the ships weren't able to like attack back or something? Or is that too artificial? Remove the respawn from them? I do think they should go back to just respawns on certain beds, or at least have respawns use resources that are kind of hard to get, because it can get sketchy when you can respawn everywhere. Only if running a non-medical mission while in a medical ship has reputation consequences or even a crime stat. Sounds very exploitable. They won't be targeted if they can't respawn people. Dude, you know how people are. Some people target any ship in the area. They don't care what it looks like. But like maybe if you think, oh, this is going to be worse than attacking that other ship over there with guns on it, you might not. Can't do that for crime. Respawn ships are primary targets now. Attacking a Red Cross vehicles against the Geneva Convention. Do they even have Geneva still? Are you the only one thinking respawning will take longer time in the future? Will require the goo? I didn't think about the time it would take to respawn. But I was definitely thinking there's gonna have to be some hefty consequences for dying no matter what. And boy, oh boy, is there a quiet war raging on that right now. That's gonna be, after we get through engineering, guys, and then we get through all the fuss that's gonna come with engineering coming into the game, because, oh, there is a storm brewing around that. Then we will move on to Death of a Spaceman, and that will be the next thing that is blown so far out of proportion. Oh, but this is the fun of a game in development. Taryn, thank you for the pizza biddies, dude. Hope you're enjoying the stream.
Do you know what? I kind of like playing the medic often. So, you know, I'm not quite sure how this will turn out in our game, you know, but I just want to see it. Just want to see it in game, and just, you know, I just want to see what players do with it. But
poor guy. He's not at the company anymore, and he didn't even get to see it in game. Although he will see it at some point.
I think, you know, I can't wait to see. You know, it's not going to be like the Red Arrows, but you can just imagine, you know, just a whole fleet of these guys just taking off and just going off, just rescuing people, or you know, you can imagine just jumping in, massive space battle, debris everywhere, bodies just sort of floating about, you know, and then just in, you know, all the drones just popping out, and scooping up the people and popping them into the base of the ship. I think it could make for a really nice visual as well.
Now that's a good looking spaceship. The RSI Apollo concept promotion begins today for...
So that's the Apollo. I mean, that's what they had to say about it back then. There's also a page about medical gameplay, which is where I really want this conversation to go. Because that's what's important to this talk. So we're going to do this one. Hey! That's right. I made a medical gameplay guide back when it came out. And then we're going to talk about design documents. Is there one for this? Yes, there is. The shipyard. Which one came out first? Okay, this is the one that came out with the Apollo. Cool. Yeah, resleeving in an Altered Carbon is a great... I think Altered Carbon has the closest parallel to how Star Citizen's respawning works. The respawning in this game is actually... it's got a whole background to it. Well, I guess this is going to be a deep dive more than just a news drop. This is going to be a longer video. What are we looking for? I lost my train of thought. Where am I? Where am I going? What am I looking for? What are we doing? Come on. Medical gameplay. One specific page, though. It was... Damn it. RSI Apollo medical gameplay. Oh, that's right. Here we go. Okay. So this has a lot of like explanation of how this all works. And the lore a lot of times actually is a good indication of where the game is going when it's been updated, because usually the lore team is being told what to update the lore to by the gameplay people. The gameplay people just haven't been able to get in the game yet. So a lot of this does drive forward how the game works. One thing where that kind of craps the bed is that they really changed the way respawns work since this. And that was honestly, that change to respawns was kind of like the same as this change to item recovery. It was something to make the game play easier and better for people who just wanted to be able to play casually. And it was also a flashpoint that the community was very split up on. And it's still not something they've resolved. So hopefully that's not a sign of how item recovery is going to go. But this was released a little while ago, talking about respawning. And there are a couple key things here I want to talk about. The imprint, the term for a complete and holistic bioscan of an individual that only records a record of one's DNA, but also their, not only the record of their DNA, but also their memories, thoughts, and personality. While imprints can be transferred between spheres without loss, only one copy of an imprint can exist at the same time. That's why you can't have clones of yourself running around. Updating an imprint will override all previous imprints. It basically just immediately kills the previous person if you get regenerated. And I believe that's illegal anyways. Regeneration itself is respawning. This is the term of the process in which an imprint is used to recreate the deceased source. Using the information stored in the imprint, a new body is regenerated that is near identical copy of the original, bearing the effect of any echoes. The echoes are kind of important, but we'll get to that. The Ibrahim sphere, the technology inside of medical beds in Star Citizen and in scanners that allows them to create and store imprints, copies of yourself. They're made out of advanced materials that are alien in origin. We don't know how they work. The technology behind the spheres was made public to encourage mass production and development. It is important to note that not all spheres are created equal. Higher quality spheres are better able to preserve imprints and cause less trauma during the regeneration process, allowing for more cycles before viability failure. We start learning here about the idea of medical gameplay. There are differences in certain respawn beds, and they haven't gotten deep into that yet, but you go to Grimhex and the medical situation is a little bit different than if you go to Hurston. So, man, I don't even know where they got into that. Maybe in the original Death of a Spaceman document, they talked a little bit about how there would be quality levels of the care you got and the insurance you paid for, like the medical insurance that you paid in this game. I know it sounds crazy, but that is a money sink. That is part of why you aren't supposed to die. Medical insurance will go up depending on where your respawn is or where your imprints are stored. You can pay a different amount. When you go and change your imprint from the space station, from the city, in the future, that might cost something different because the space station doesn't have the same resources as the city, doesn't have the same infrastructure, has a higher demand. That's all kind of supposed to be built into the lore. And that's where they're starting to get at here with the idea of higher quality spheres and the fact that they will preserve your imprint. You won't have as much echoes or trauma, which is where the next part comes in. Known commonly as an echo, this is a term used to describe the link between an imprint and its source. When a major traumatic event occurs, like being shot in the head, the psychological impact of that event can sometimes be strong enough to permanently alter the imprint. For example, if a person's legs are crushed prior to death, there's a possibility that an echo will be created and that it will alter the imprint so that the individual's legs are no longer functional when they respawn. Echoes are the reason why patients may regenerate bearing the scars and wounds of how they died, and why only one copy of a person can exist at a time. Regeneration itself also creates echoes, and over time an individual's imprint will degrade and become less viable. This is also why imprints cannot be used to extend life, as the process of aging itself echoes through the imprints. However, this is why we can't do altered carbon. Testing has shown that higher quality medical equipment and spheres create less severe impact on echoes. So again, this whole idea that you can essentially pay to play. You can get better coverage, better equipment, better respawns, better cybernetics. They have also shown us, cybernetics, and the development that they put into these back when they were working on medical gameplay. We've seen them at high levels, we've seen them at medium levels of polish, and we've seen them at completely terrible levels of polish, and just like the crappy stuff that you might get if you're a pirate in some crappy system and you can't get to Hurston or something like that. This is, they just troll us. This is all part of the plan still. You can even go to the Star Citizen roadmap, and it's all still there. Go to the progress tracker, deliverables, actor, and you look at the actor status T2, and it states actor status T2 looks at a variety of new elements such as hygiene, NPC status tracking, multiple bytes, DNA integrity, medical insurance, cybernetic limbs, and cloning. That's all this we're talking about. And it's never been really important, right? Because who cares about respawning when you're just dying from everything all the time in any way? Who cares about hygiene when we're not even, our bodies don't persist? Who cares about multiple bites when we barely eat anything? Who cares about medical insurance when everybody has tons of money and there's no economy? But all of these things are things they're working on right now. They're trying to get the economy into a better place. They're trying to make the game more playable and create less bugs that we're dying from. They're trying to create more progress through reputation and guilds. So it's all pointing towards more focus on the character. And actor status T2 is not far away, I think. Year and a half, maybe? I think as soon as they are comfortable that we're not dying primarily from glitches and stuff, they're going to start to stack on the consequences of dying. We can already see some little slips here in the PTU with the fee for paying to come back. Like I said, that fee's going to change based on where you are. So this then leads to the thing that everybody hates to talk about. Well, not everybody. A lot of people like it. Death of a Spaceman. And the fact that it is not permadeath, as we have, even I have called it, it's not necessarily permadeath. It's more paying a lot in reputation and in price like this. We don't know if they're going to make you make a new character or have a different character or if there's something like that. But we do know that it's going to have a significant effect on your gameplay. And that's not to ruin your day. That's to try to get you not to die. It's like, you know, this whole thing, deterrence. So they call each life that we're supposed to have a cycle. This term references the period between regenerations. People will ask each other what cycle they are on to inquire how many times they have been regenerated. People are sometimes impressed by how long others have gone without needing a regen. That's going to be something that you can brag about in the game. Yet another reason to encourage people to try not to die. Imagine if when you see someone's name, when you scan them, it shows next to their name 14 months or something like that. Cycle, 14 months. Like, it gives you something to be proud of, having stayed alive and done a good job. That probably puts a target on your head too, but still be fun. And it just goes on from there to kind of describe how you would go through cycles and eventually your body would break down. We will lose limbs. We will retain problems from dying in terrible ways, but actual death in this game is supposed to be pretty rare. Even compared to what we have right now, you're really not supposed to die. You're just supposed to go down, get incapacitated, be soft-deathed, and then be picked up by a medic or somebody. And that's where the medical beacons and that kind of stuff would come back in. But until they have a system that can support that, they just haven't really done the work on it. But you can see there's a lot tied into medical gameplay. And this isn't even getting into injuries and how injuries are supposed to be healable and their critical injuries. And then we talk about radiation damage. We talk about debuffs and buffs that you can have and how those can be applied or de-applied or where you might be able to get them. There's just a lot that can be brought into medical gameplay. And I think on top of the Death of a Spaceman stuff, the drone stuff, the statuses of medical gameplay, and all of this respawn stuff, I'm not super sure they're going to be able to get another release of this out this year. In fact, I'm very, very much unsure. I kind of doubt it a lot. So for that reason, I'm just not very positive or confident that the Apollo is going to come out. Because I do think that the Apollo is going to be pretty heavily linked to all this. I mean, even in the introductory page, they have the Apollo here. But I could be wrong. Sorry to rain on your parade if you were hoping for the Apollo this year. I hope it comes. But I think we would be worse off if they released the Apollo without all of this stuff and then tried to put this stuff in. Maybe they could fudge it a little bit. It's not a huge ship. Maybe they don't have to change it too much, but yeah. Interested in the mini game we will get for medical gameplay? That's another thing, is I don't know what they're gonna do. If they're gonna bring more depth into creating drugs and applying those drugs. If it's going to be really in depth on injury and injury management and pain management, if it's going to be about fixing those injuries in the field, if it's more about things like radiation damage. We know that the damage model, Maelstrom, is actually supposed to be applied to armor and the human body as well. So we're going to have like bullet hole injuries, but how accurate those are, how much they persist, do we actually do anything with those? There's not much knowing what they can do with medical, but they certainly can do a lot more than just using a beam to heal someone. As I said, we've already got the drone gameplay, so you have to bring them back on. You do have to manage your own resources, and you have to pay attention to a lot of the injury stuff. They talked about a mini game. .1 will have a lot less need for medics. Yeah, we don't really need medics right now, unfortunately. I think we do for groups and squads, but not as standalone things. It's not a good place for gameplay at the moment. An upcoming event this year is about respawns being broken and people perm dying. That'll be interesting to see. Maybe that will be related to this. If there is an event related to respawns and stuff, it could be a chance for them to usher in new gameplay, but we know how they're feeling about new gameplay this year. If we don't see it in EPT, I really don't think they're going to drop it in live, because this would be a pretty big change. Did they confirm medical for 1.0? Well, they had medical beacons on the screen, and I believe they had medical guild, or medical factions within the Science Guild. Don't know how far CIG really wants to go, so they might consider the medical already in a good enough for now. If that's my whole point of this, though. If it is good enough for now, I don't see them releasing this ship. If it is not good enough for now, then I don't think it will happen until this ship releases. That's my whole point of this video. As far as where medical is going to go, I don't know, because like you said, we don't know how far they want to take it. A lot of people are going to be disappointed to learn that this game just has a lot of survival elements being built into it. Planned from the beginning. It's not being brought in out of nowhere to surprise you. The whole actor status, the idea of survival gameplay, it's always been part of it, at least since Planets were. And that can probably factor into medical too. But they have not done a good job of laying out how that was supposed to work. Jared mentioned something about that in ISC last week. You know, I didn't even watch ISC last week. Do you remember what part of it was at? Let's see.
Over 25 years ago.
Let's turn that down a little bit.
So we're going to have to tighten this thing to insane levels to keep the expensive camera from flying all over the place. Suspected.
It's about an upcoming event this year.
Growing threat of the frontier fighters. I'm also doing reports about a new threat to all human life in the verse that begins to rear its head in the upcoming Alpha 4.1 with the start of this year's B story, concerning a suspected failure of regen technologies, which we'll learn more about in just a couple of weeks.
They're already starting their B story in 4.1, and it sounds like it has absolutely nothing to do with the A story. That's what I'm talking about, dude. So we're gonna have narrative stuff going on Daymar and what the other place, Aberdeen. We're gonna have Wicklow stuff going on in the exploration realm. We're gonna have the narrative stuff going on in Pyro, and now we're going to have something regen related. That's pretty cool. But I wouldn't tie that to a release of the ship. I think that would just be them utilizing whatever already exists for regen and medical and going off of that. Does sound like it's a cool thing. I don't think it's really going to lead to the Apollo coming out, though. Unless they release the Apollo without the gameplay, which in that case wouldn't be a great look. Anyways, there's your Apollo news and Hopium. On to the next one. Whoops. SC career YouTuber didn't watch ISC? I know. Woe is me. If sicknesses infect other players, such as your team or crew, then medical would be even more important. True. Different text to explain the same old combat gameplay and fetch quests. Well. Wait. That doesn't look like text. Text in the form of a body, maybe. Manual surgery, special treatments for certain diseases. Maybe you need rare medicine. It's weird to you when an SC YouTuber evidently doesn't follow official communication. I just want to be super clear to everybody. I am not an official Star Citizen news shorts. I follow the games I like, so just don't follow me for all the news. If we look at injections in SC, we might get it. There's this oxygen pen, right? The oxygen pen that doesn't give me oxygen. Does sound like it could lead directly to the Apollo, just not till later in the year as a response to the ongoing problems. That would be sketchy to me. A wee bit sketchy. All right, should we talk about item recovery next? I bet that's going to be real fun. Oh, I can't wait for this conversation. Ooh. Yes. You're my official news guy. Hey, well, I'm glad you can get your news from me. You just might not get every little bit that comes out. I'm going to try and hit you with the feature development because that's what I like. But I will, actually, I don't need to log in. But I will always be, I might cover other games too. You die around 5 times a day, not sure how this is going to work. If there is consequence for dying, there has to be consequence for killing. Indeed, that is how it's going to work. Whenever you guys think about the idea of how it might work, and then you're like, well, they probably need to do that. They've gone through that thought process. They just haven't put it in the game yet. Hot take, you don't hate Tier 0. The M2 buff in 4.1, I haven't heard about that yet. Is that related to all the other ships that are getting buffed right now? It was a great episode of Rycop. They have all the good stuff planned and still planned and planned still. I like the server meshing part. I think that was pretty cool that they released that. Like in-game Yelp reviews for people who murder you. Yeah, reviews would be great. Reputation would be good. Knowing somebody is a murderer would be awesome. First look at item recovery. Boy. You know what? I'm gonna look for first. Star Citizen subscriber gear recovery. Let's see what comes up if I do that. solution is blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. And then I want to get another video from CIG here. Just gonna tie it all together.
So basically,
Okay.
people
Really punished. That's going to be an ongoing endeavor, and we'll talk more about that as we get closer to release.
Okay. Item recovery. This is gonna be fun. Oh man. All right. Let's talk about item recovery. It's been a little while now. I think, when did they put this out? March 4th. Yeah, it's been 2 weeks now since they put out plans for item recovery. And there's just so much to be said, while really also not being very much to be said. But we're going to get into it here and explain what the heck's going on. I'm not going to read through this whole thing. I'm going to show you the history of why we're here, how we got here, and what their plans have been up until now, and if this changes their plans. Because I think the biggest thing people are unhappy about is, one, the Tier 0 implementation and just the way that it's rolling out right now, and two, the unclarity, misclarity, disclarity, inclarity, the lack of clarity on how T2 is going to work long term, because people want this stuff to matter, and is crafting still going to matter, and why is there a dead man switch, and all these things. So first we're going to go all the way back to not that far. It's like 2 years ago, actually. In 2023, they kind of addressed this, and this is really where it all started. This wasn't about a all items sort of thing. This was about pledge items that you paid real money for. If I put $10 into this thing, and then I go out into space and I lose this thing, did I just lose my $10? And after 3.15, or rather with 3.15, the game changed forever. From 3.0 and even before that, we did not have an inventory, folks. There was no inventory in this game. There was like a little tiny stupid thing. It's like wheel that was almost useless. This thing right here. Yeah, this little wheel thing we used to basically just pick up some rocks and put them in our pouch. I don't know, our belly. And this was not a great system, but it kind of was there. You just didn't carry things around with you. Generally, you would go and click on like anything you wanted to do. You would just open your mobi-glass and all of your stuff was there. Any weapon you had ever bought, anything you had ever used or picked up, anything that was yours, it was available to you just through your mobi-glass. And it was all that way up until 3.15 when they brought in the physical local inventory support. This didn't completely separate everything, but it did make it so that you had to start paying attention to where things were. And with that, we got loot for the first time, so the ability to actually pick things up and store them. We got backpacks for the first time. This was when the game really changed a lot with 3.15. This is like the biggest update we had gotten up until that point, I think, besides maybe object container streaming. And so it was a big shift. Suddenly now you could lose the stuff that you had. It wasn't just there all the time on your mobi-glass. And people started to slowly over time use their subscriber gear less because it was nice, it was cool, you paid real money for it, and you didn't want to have to lose it. And as we kept going on, the wipes got longer and longer, and then people didn't want to do character repairs as much. So suddenly if you lost your subscriber gear, there wouldn't be a wipe for 10 months, 18 months, and you wouldn't have your stuff for a long time. And it was like, okay, I don't want to lose that. I won't use it. So people kept asking for, how do I get my pledge items back? Like, can we have a way to get those back? Because those are something we can't buy in the game. We can't find in the loot. We can't get this back in any other way than through the store. And that's kind of lame. So they came back with this response in 23, and they said, player inventories have been introduced, and players will now lose all their carry items should they die, as they will remain with the player's corpse instead of staying with them upon respawning. You will need to return to where you died to recover your items on your own. Items lost will only be what you were carrying at the time of death, and anything safely stored in a landing zone will be retained. That's always been nice, but I've never relied on that. I don't even know if it works correctly. This is why it is important to take care of your health and request assistance should you find yourself incapacitated. Oh my god, Star Citizen, are you forcing me to play multiplayer? Ask for assistance? The fuck? This also applies to items from the pledge store, including subscriber items. However, the pledges for these remain attributed to you on your account even though they may be lost in game. We are examining solutions for recovering these looted pledge items in the future. But for now, your items will return on the next major patch game update. So that's what I just freaking... There's something in my eye, I'm sorry. That's what I just described. You wouldn't get it back until the next update. They were clearly trying to tell us that they were working on something for pledge items. And then they said, this is intended functioning of the system and no RSI support cannot assist with recovering items lost to death if they are taken by someone else before you can retrieve them yourself. As far as I'm aware, they still want to support that. So then we go forward, what is this? Like 4 months. And we were getting close to the point where they wanted to do like all of this hangar stuff, hangar systems and
Container boxes, so that you'll still...
Container boxes. Like all of this cargo stuff that they were redoing. This is the time when they were first started to talk about it. They were still a year away from us getting this, right? We got this in September 2024. This is September 2023. So back then, they wanted to make it clear that they were working on something for this. Here is that segment.
America Persistent Universe team. So let's go ahead and let them bring it all home and see if we can't maybe just sneak in one more tiny, big addition people have been waiting for too.
Another big thing that we're working on is unique item recovery. This is something that the fans have been asking for a long time, and we're hoping that it's really gonna finally resolve this problem of losing items or losing items mid-mission.
It looks like a simple subject, but there's a lot of little things to think about, like people buying some gear, giving to their friend and claiming it back. What happens to the version that was given to their friends, or even like if your body gets looted by somebody, how do we want to kind of cope with that?
So one of the ideas that we have running right now is that you would have a lost and found within your hab. So if you're playing, your mission crashes, you lose your progress, but you can go back to your hab, restart that mission, grab that item, and continue on where you left off. And we're really hoping to apply.
This is what we're going to talk about today, because this is like the kind of thing that people want. They just want you to be able to, yeah, I lost something, let me go to a kiosk and get it back through insurance or something. So that's what the main part of this conversation is all going to be about. But like, they've had these conversations. This is, again, it's like a year and a half ago.
Apply this to subscriber items and other unique items as well.
I think in the long run, we have a lot of plans. Just really trying to build out a feature set that can incorporate a lot of different ships, that can incorporate your teams, that allows you to be more in control. It allows you to try to find the best ways that work for you and your group. And right now, that's the main thing we're working on.
Our universe is big. We're going to keep building more systems, more planets, and we really want to find a way to make that exciting. We want to have you take goods from one planet to the other, explore places that you haven't seen, loading up, organizing all of your gear, all of your equipment, having it snapped to a grid, keeping everything safe. And it's a huge part of Star Citizen and where we want to go with the game.
That is a summary of that we're working towards for physicalized.
Okay, so they really didn't even say too much. They just said that they want to do a kiosk where you can recover that kind of stuff. Now, I think there was another place where they... Hold on, let me see if I can find it on here, because I don't even know where that would be. But we're going to go from there. We're going to talk about what they mentioned at CitizenCon last year, because there is also Oh, they really only talked about it on these?
Larger cargo item support, kiosk changes, the item bank, and even unique item recovery. So
Yeah, unique item recovery is really the main thing. Other than that, though, as you can see, they haven't really said too much about that officially. So now, if we go back to the thread that was posted just previously to this, and before we get into really what they've announced for 4.1, we read the first part here. And it says, at CitizenCon 2954, we shared our long-term design for crafting, insurance, and item ship recovery. If you need a refresher, both presentations are available on YouTube and will be helpful. Watch before diving into this post. They're not giving us any caveats here. I'm always going to say, take it with a grain of salt. Was that Adam Jensen's voice actor? Elias Turbone? I can't remember his last name. No, that wasn't him. That would be so cool if he was in this game. I would take it all with a grain of salt, of course, but it's also important to note that what they said at CitizenCon last year is kind of like both their scaled back vision and also their exceptional vision, because some of the stuff that was planned is not sounding as in-depth as it was. This being kind of one of those things. But what they said during those presentations still should be able to tell us more about how this stuff works. Now, I want to go back to how they say that the ship version of this is going to work, because this gives us some insight into how they want the game to work.
Now, as we have Death of a Spaceman, we also need Death of a Spaceship. Losing your ship should be significant. Right now, for example, over 90% of all claims in the verse are for ships that have not been destroyed. And this is where ship insurance and our new warranty mechanic comes in.
Okay, this is where I think things are a little weird. I am not sure why they don't just apply this exact same system to everything. But maybe there is some reason, and maybe they'll explain it. Maybe it's just something that I'm missing. I'm not even thinking of. But the way that he's about to explain this working out seems like a little bit different from how they're doing inventory item recovery.
First up, we'll have 3 tiers of insurance, with level 1 being chassis insurance, level 2, chassis and component insurance, and level 3, chassis, component, and decorations insurance. Now, insurance by itself will only pay out credits based on the wear and age of your ship. Insurance...
There. That's what people want. And I think there should be some, like, the idea of getting the weapon back, and I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, is the same as getting the ship back, right? And getting the ship back that's a big deal. It's a lot different getting the money back for the ship than just getting a new ship. Even in real life, if you got damaged, your car got damaged, there's a big difference between getting the money sent to you or like getting the work that needs to be done on your stuff covered versus just getting a new vehicle or something. Not an exact analogy, but this is like the big complication that's not really an item recovery.
I think you want to listen to this bit because it's important. Insurance with a warranty, though, will give you back a new ship, plus any other equipment or decorations based on the tier of insurance you had. Okay, so this is
basically what they're saying there is if you have insurance, you'll always get something back. But if you have a warranty on top of that insurance, you'll get the ship back.
The bit you need to listen to. All ships bought on the pledge store will come with a permanent warranty and their appropriate insurance.
So now at this point, if you apply that to item recovery, this would basically be just saying you have a kiosk in your room, and that kiosk has the list of all of the things that you have owned and lost. If those things are insured, you can tap the button and get the item back. That raises your insurance costs, but you still get the item, or sorry, you get the money for that item back. You can go and buy it. If that is a pledge store item, you tap the button, you get the pledge item back instead of just the money. That's the way I don't see why it's not applied like that. They basically just tied your ability to get your ship back to a warranty, and then they gave everybody a warranty if they got that ship with real money. So that is ship recovery. And I think there's a little bit more here about the insurance claims. Let's listen to this a little bit.
Now, what about claim timers? It's another fun topic.
So this is claim timers. We already have this in game on the ASOP terminals when you're claiming your ship. But that's going to slowly change from just an ASOP terminal to an actual insurance sheet that kind of gives you an idea of, okay, this is what each of my ship's value is and how long it takes for them to be made.
And getting your ship back without a claim. Well, we want claim timers to be proportional to the crafting timers. This means it's more beneficial for you to go back and get your original ship. For this, we're going to be introducing a shuttle ship, just like a courtesy car.
Now, this wouldn't apply to items. They're not going to give you a shuttle to go back and you can get your gun. But the claim time thing and the crafting time thing, like if you can't pay the insurance cost for something, then they should at least let you pay in time, right? Just like ASOP terminals work right now.
You'll be able to claim the shuttle at no extra cost to most locations and then fly it back to your original ship. Once back in your ship, the shuttle will automatically return home.
Oh yeah, no, Monk, you're right. The claim timers are going to go up quite a bit, I think.
If your ship has been legitimately lost, though, then you'll need to claim it back. And as we'll be increasing claim timers, this will mean some ships will take longer than others, with starter or small ships always being readily available, and larger capital-sized ships taking a long time. So it's always better to try and get your ship back if possible.
So I think this should just be applied to items. And when you do get an item back, if you do have, for some reason, the ability to get the item back, whether they tie that to insurance, whether they bring warranties over to items, whatever it might be, they should just have you always get back the most basic tier of whatever that item is. So you're not taking away the urgency or the need for crafters building and upgrading these guns and armor and stuff, but you're also kind of giving people an out to get back to the stuff that they want. I see a comment in chat. I'd rather have the item. It takes way too long to gear up in this game. Traveling to different stores to build out my kit when I die is tedious. But you gotta remember, everybody, anytime you think about how these things are supposed to work, specifically when you're looking at these kinds of posts, this is not being made for the game right now. Tier 2 has almost nothing to do with what we're doing right now. The idea that you would get money back to buy the thing that you want is kind of honestly related to the video we did before this with the Apollo. Check it out, guys, if you're watching on Space Tomato 2. You're not going to be dying that much. You're dying a lot less. And when you are dying less, or even when you're rather not dying less, getting geared back up in this game will also be easier because you're going to be able to save loadouts. You're going to be able to have stuff stored a lot more. We're still playing in a game that gets wiped constantly, and that changes how we think about losing stuff. It's kind of like they can't make decisions on how GTA 6 is supposed to play 4 years ago, because if they did, when they released it now, the players would get something completely different than what they planned. They have to have some level of faith in that the different things they're creating from all here are going to come together here at some point in the future to actually make a game that works. It could be made much simpler than this and function a lot better. They are needlessly complicating the system. How would you simplify it? Just gearing up is going to change. Yeah, that's true, PK. So the other bit that they talked about, let's see, that was the 1.0, is the crafting stuff.
eighth
And I don't
died.
even know if they mentioned, let's see, blueprints, base building. Did they mention anything about how blueprints would replace pledge items or anything like that? Listen.
Blueprints provide the rest.
I feel like the issues with that would be how it applies to those individual items. Right now, whether you buy a ship in game or in the pledge store, you can claim it on a kiosk. Pledge store item recovery would only apply to that specific item. How do they separate the pledge store Karna from the weapon shop Karna? Well, the pledge store usually has skins on it. Just give them the basic version of the weapon, as if it wasn't crafted, wasn't upgraded, didn't have any skins or anything. Curious on how they envision that we won't die that often when 1.0 comes out. Simple, they'll just raise the threshold of damage. We'll get incapacitated, we'll take a lot of injuries, and we'll get a lot of damage, which will create more gameplay for medical, and it will mean that our actual deaths are pushed further off. You can still beat someone, because you can put them out of commission and put them on the ground, but the difference between incapacitating somebody and murdering somebody could probably be the difference between getting arrested and fined and getting thrown into prison for like 3 days. So if they can make that difference big enough, and then they can make the gameplay itself take longer for us to actually die, then they can keep us from dying less. I mean, I'll hear them out. I think when we call something needlessly complicated, kind of what Brigadier is saying, we're not seeing all of it because we're not making the game, but I'm also open to hearing how it could be simplified. Wouldn't the skins be a craftable item? Yeah. Supposedly, unless it's like some kind of exclusive thing, I guess. How's the game going for 750 million? Pretty good, dude. I still don't get this experience from anything else, so they're doing something right. When looting a corpse of gear, why not instead collect the materials used in crafting? Not collecting the gear in its functional state. That's what Astropub's been suggesting. That could also work. Maybe. I don't see why not. Anyways, I'm sorry. Let's listen to what they have to say about blueprints. I don't know if this has anything to do with the pledge gear or they said anything, but listen to this and then we'll look at the post.
Blueprints. Before you can craft anything, you'll need a blueprint. Blueprints provide the recipe to perform all kinds of crafting processes, including refining. You can acquire blueprints through various activities. Some you can buy, some you can find, and some can be unlocked or earned in other ways.
Ananzi, do you know what the original plan people talk about is when it comes to this? I actually am not entirely sure what that reference means. Like, original plan, did they say something about item recovery back when they released the inventory stuff? Or, like, what is the original plan that people talk about? I am, this is a completely real question. Would suck if you need a weapon or a tool in that moment and all you got is some scrap. Yeah. But that's why they made backpacks bigger. Isn't that what you just read? That we would have a kiosk to get the gear back. That's what people mean by original idea. The ISC that we just watched. I don't see how that's changed, but we're about to look at the post again. There was no original idea for crafting. Crafting was not part of Star Citizen originally. So that's That's out of the crafting was this is the introduction of crafting. This video that we're watching right now is the first time they ever laid out what crafting is in Star Citizen. So I don't see how they are changing from this, but maybe we will in the text video or the text video. I don't think there's a document on it. The original plan was a kiosk similar to the item bank with cooldown timers for pledge gear. So like what I was just saying they would do, like to do with ships. We have a blueprint for every item, for each item we bought on the pledge store. Hope they're not going to sell blueprints without the actual blueprint being usable. Okay, so is that what people's problem is, that the idea that they might not be giving us blueprints to craft the items, but we would have to... I'm just getting out of order here. Just want to double check. Once an item is looted, you'll have the option to sell it, dismantle it, or restore it. The system creates a viable path for piracy. If an item had a cosmetic applied, restoring it will remove the cosmetic. Register their items to be reclaimed for a fee. I see. So the problem is they are not talking about blueprints here. But they're also pointing us back towards this panel. So is it possible then that the big problem here, the real problem here, is a communication problem? They moved the kiosk to the ASOP terminal, same concept though. They mentioned item recovery when discussing the item kiosks in the run up to 323 and 324. I see. In like a Spectrum post? People will craft pledge items and sell them. They can't do blueprints. But that's kind of the point, right? I guess that gives you an edge. Okay, let's see what they say about blueprints real quick.
You can also upgrade your blueprints through research. We'll go into more detail about what this means a bit later. So, blueprints are the recipe, and Rick already told us the materials you gather and refine will be the ingredients. But there's a bit more to it than that. We have a new concept for materials: material quality. Quality is a property we're adding to all resources you can gather. That's an abstract make of this resources is best desirable for all rules. All side quality, we're in the purpose to all guided to the item stats. Each item will be provided research I could have. To go even further, researching your fabrication blueprints allows you to build higher tiers of an item with improved base stats. So a higher tier item will be better than a lower tier item that was made with materials of the same quality. Making high tier items...
So this is like, you gotta lose this if you're getting an item back, right? They can't just give you the same tiered item back. It's gotta just give you tier 1.
They will go over vehicle of include accomplish policies.
No, I don't think this doesn't talk about blueprints with pledge store stuff. If they give your pledge store item back, you're less concerned with blueprints. What if the blueprint, I think some people are saying, was the cosmetic of the pledge store? So you get back the basic. Maybe they do that. What if pledge store items were automatically higher tier, and then when you get that pledge store item back, you just get it back at the bottom tier? Blueprint for pledge store items were a Spectrum post. Do you know where? That's a lot. Honestly, I bet that's like not even a... It's probably a pretty active post on here. There's no way. I'm not even going to be able to find that. There's apply around citizen con time. Could have been saved. So that's probably a little important piece of information. But let's go through here real quick and see what the T0, T1, and T2 are. So Tier 0 is the initial. This is coming out with 4.1. This is what most people are unhappy about. And I think it's not a hot take to be unhappy about this. But it's also not a hot take to just not be bothered by it. The way this works basically is that items stored in your inventory will not be protected and are going to remain on your corpse after you die. So this is your guns and your armor. Basically, when that happens, it'll be locked and only available to you when you respawn. And you'll just respawn in the medical bed with that stuff already on you. This is how death worked prior to 3.15, and it's how people have wanted this to work. I want to be super, super clear here. People have been screaming and gnashing teeth and just getting all kinds of angry for this. And I'm going to be a little bit bitter because I think that a lot of the complaints about this kind of thing come from people who really aren't the target audience for what Star Citizen's supposed to be. The people who want to respawn with all their stuff already back on them, just like play Arena Commander or play other games where that happens. But at the same time, this is not permanent. They're only doing this to appease the people who want to play like that. This is literally just another sign of CIG going playability first. They hit server meshing and now they're like, we're just going to do everything we can to try and get people back into this game and make sure it's a playable experience, and try to get the largest amount of people back into testing and playing. And the largest amount of people are the casuals who are sick of dying to glitches and having to go and re-get their stuff again, which I totally understand. The problem with this is that it is going to create an expectation that the game works a certain way. And then when it stops working that way, all of those people are going to come back and say, oh, they're killing the game. It's not working. They're doing this new stuff that's making it worse. Because we go over this every single time they do this. Okay, they don't make heat or power management have problems on your ships. So what do we see now with engineering comeback? They're overcomplicating it. They're adding in too many things. We didn't have hover mode stay into the game because it made flight too freaking weird at low speed. But now that they're working on control surfaces and something that's akin to hover mode, what are we going to hear when it comes back? They're making flight too complicated. Why are they bringing in these new things? We're learning about heat management and weapons. We're going to get the life support with the room system. We're going to get Maelstrom in the damage system, crafting in that, Death of a Spaceman. Every time they make this game work in a certain way in order for it to be playable, and then they actually start bringing back in the real features, we get a whole new wave of freaking drama. So that's what's going to happen with this. And it should be a fun time, but just know this isn't permanent. And while Tier 0 might not be so great, it's part of the journey towards actually getting to this stuff that we were looking at earlier. So the other parts of this are that items such as magazines and med pens that you have equipped on your body will be looted from your corpse. So you can still get ammo from people, you can still get their backpacks, anything in their backpacks. However, you will also respawn with those items. As duplication concerns for these types of consumables are less concerning at this stage. Are they still doing you respawn with the ammo too? So you get to keep your ammo and the people get to have it? You can still loot people's ammo? You just want to look cool and not spend hours looting boxes till you have 10 sets of the same armor before you feel safe using any armor. That's fair. All objects have a unique ID. Items created from a claimed parent object can't be insured. Give spawned items a durability timer. Only one instance of a child item can exist in a given instance. Items created from a claimed parent object can't be insured. items created. I don't know that. Last you checked, you didn't pledge for ammo, so you're good. Even this will no doubt evolve as time moves forward to final implementation. Yeah, they've not even launched this yet. This might change before we even get to 4.1 live. Continuing T0 item recovery applies to all forms of respawning, whether in a medbed on a ship or at your assigned landing zone. Yeah, that's not working very well in PTU, just a heads up. To ensure that your weapon in active use is secured as an equipped item, it will automatically be stowed to your holster upon death. So if you have 3 weapons, you might actually still lose one. If you die within a landing zone, you will respawn with both your equipped gear and your inventory. That's how it already works. And with T0, you will respawn with your previously equipped gear already attached to your character. Rykop, thank you so much for the super chat, mate. I really appreciate that on you too. Honestly, you are chill about whatever they do early days, except for the death of a spaceman thing. You can go for hours about how wrong it is with PowerPoints. Sorry, man, sobs in Canadian. You're fine. Some people don't like it. Is there a way to enable closed captioning? I don't know. I am not sure. We could look into that. Do want to support folks who need to rely on captions. Only problem with T0 you could see is someone keeping a med station nearby constantly being a threat with no downside to them. Yeah, but people can do that right now already. I was just describing to somebody last week. We had somebody at our it was me and a couple of folks playing, and we were holding down a bunker, and they had a Cuddy Red outside with all the armor and all the weapons they needed, and every time they respawned, they just got it and came back in and fought us. You still have to go out and kill that spawn point. That's what they changed last year when they made it so that everything can respawn people. Gotta adapt and find the respawn vehicle and kill it. Yeah. Let me see. Whether you have a hearing impairment or blemish. Broadcasters, you will need to transmit caption files. Yeah, okay. So I think I have to download a program that captions things. Yeah, we can look into that. I'm also excited for Death of a Spaceman. I quite like consequence in games. That's why I think I was very drawn to RPGs growing up. Really, single-player RPGs are a lot of what I spent my time on. Obsidian specifically, I think, makes some of the better RPGs that deal with things like consequence. Knights of the Old Republic, freaking Mass Effect. I know that was BioWare, but you know they're close. Freaking Vegas, Fallout Vegas. Like there's a Deus Ex. There's just a lot of really good games that make you pay for the decisions you make, and I love seeing that in Star Citizen. I'm glad that they've so far been sticking to that, and I hope that they don't change that. I'm genuinely sorry to the people who don't like consequences or annoyances in games. I hope they give us the ability to pay to get around them and give you the chance to, avoid them. You want consequences once they fix the bugs and glitches? I agree with you there, but it's also like they can't just not build these parts of the game. This is why I tell people don't play. Do not play Star Citizen. Don't play it. Do not play it. Don't play it. It's not worth it. Because they can't just not put things into the game that have to matter. Like, imagine if this game, we were just all invincible. If there was just no way to take damage, because you always take damage in this game from glitches, how the heck would we even care? Or like if ships didn't take damage because they're all super fragile. These kinds of workarounds continue to hurt the experience of playing the game that they're trying to make. And like I said, it just gets people to think it's a different game than what it is. How many people talk about Star Citizen like it's already released? Like, what is currently happening in the game will drive this game into the ground over the course of years, even though we know that it's going to change. People don't read. It's the way it is. T1. This is the kind of big implementation. T1 loadout and ship registration. This is going to have a personal loadout, allowing you to register your equipped items, which can be reclaimed for a fee at specific kiosks or freight elevators. So that already is the part that I think is hurting people, because there's nothing about blueprints here. Edinga, what would you call permadeath as opposed to death penalties? Where would you draw the line? If you lost your character and then got a new character with a slightly different appearance, would that be permadeath? You don't like the idea of having to recreate your character's look. So if it was still the same look, that would be fine. It's just having to recustomize somebody. Next step, looting and bricked items from T1. Once an item is looted, it remains usable until the original owner reclaims it or marks it as stolen. At that point, a dead man switch is activated, meaning it will cease to function after a period of time. I don't think that's a great idea. I think this makes a lot of sense for the ships, which is indeed what they're doing with the ships here. Actually, this is really cool. The Piracy. Here we go. Listen to this system. This works really well for ships, in my opinion.
Just without security forces. But before we jump into an unlawful system, let's explore what options you have if you pirate a ship. Okay, so first up, let's discuss ownership. All ships and high-value items that you own will automatically be assigned to you. This means if someone steals your ship, you can mark it as stolen, either via an insurance claim or in your Mobi. This will then trigger a dead man switch on the stolen ship, meaning it will cease to function after a period of time. But what options does this leave as a pirate? Well, you can still salvage it. You can tow it back to your fabrication hangar to dismantle it for resources. Or if you have a high enough rep with the council, our criminal guild, you can get the dead man switch disabled and pay for a new title deed to become its new owner.
So this is freaking sick, because this is like legitimate piracy. But it makes more sense for vehicles than weapons, in my opinion. I do think that there needs to be something that you can do when you get something stolen that allows you to mark it as stolen, and then that item should just get somebody else an additional crime stat in that area, right? We do this in other games. Things get marked as stolen, and then that affects you. At the very least, it should be marked as stolen. And I don't even think they say it here. Yeah, they just say, while a looted or stolen bricked item is no longer usable, you can still sell the item for items or credits. So, like, you can sell it, but yeah, I don't know. there should be repercussions to holding on to it too. And hey, appreciate the super chat. CJ, thank you so much. The idea of dying too many times and eventually having to make a new character because of the in-game lore is really cool. I feel like it teaches you to be more careful and not be so cavalier with their life. Agreed, CJ. Especially if you have to go through like 10 to 15 cycles just to lose that character. That could take a year. And then just copy the character's look, you know, and put it on the new character. Rykop, appreciate you as well for the super chat on YouTube. It's not a consequence. It's not consequences you mine. Lost rep or items or progression are no problem. Can even take permadeath. What grinds your gears is CIG's passing on to your distant relative storyline. Big nope on that. I see. What if that relative had the same name as you and the same look? Where is the line? Need registration numbers on all items in order for it to make sense to you. Yeah. Or at least a registration item on each item of a type. One server error and you need to make a new character? No, that's not how it works. You don't die when you have a server error. You just respawn. Wonder if the best option is a little retcon that your DNA profile is pulled from cold storage. How do we get back into Death of a Spaceman? I don't think they're going to do the relative thing, to be honest. Like, as the game has gone on, they've kept the lore intact of things they want to do, and they've kept the kind of functionality, but they've missed those details. I think that it's going to be reputation loss, bodily harm, and money loss. That's going to be really what the things are. They'll probably let you either have somebody you can pass your stuff on to, or they'll let you just come back with your own character again. It's either or. I also want to mention, just to go back to Tier 0 real quick here, one of the things that we're missing is Star Citizen has had this one problem for a long time. Made a video about it last summer. Super combat focused. Almost every single video to come out of Star Citizen, I kid you not, if you go back to this video, Space Middle combat problem. Combat problem. And you watch the beginning of this.
It's just going to make the game, I think, feel a lot more like it's tying all the pieces together.
Some risks and you might
3.7. 3.8. Every single trailer, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. I'm pretty sure 324 was actually the first one, if I'm not mistaken. Where was that trailer? Where's the 324 trailer? I think the 324 trailer did not have combat in it, if I'm not mistaken. Either that or the 4.0. I don't remember which one. They have this problem where everything was super combat focused because it was so easy to make. And it was really the only part of the game that worked relatively well. We didn't have mining super good. We didn't have salvage. We don't have data running. No exploration. Cargo hauling wasn't a thing. None of those stuff worked until like these last couple years. So they've just been doing combat over and over and over again. And so all anybody thinks about when they're thinking about looting is combat. But they're going to start to put artifacts in this game. They're going to start to put in batteries. Fuses are a thing. They expanded the size of backpacks that nobody seems to be talking about. They made them freaking huge, so you can store multiple guns in there. You can store armor in that. You can store all kinds of things in that. We're not carrying everything in our hands, folks. You can loot so much other stuff, even with the Tier 0 implementation. The only things that you're limited on are the armor and the guns. So, like, take a step back. It sucks, I know. It really eats into PvP. It does. But just, like, for a second, just consider that maybe over the course of the next couple of months, as they've already been doing, they're going to be adding in things that are more interesting to be looting. These key cards that we have that we need to get for certain missions. The fuses we're going to need for engineering. Medical pens, oxygen pens, maybe resources for life support. There's like more stuff that's going to be in backpacks and on people's bodies than just in their hands. And all of that's still free to loot. So it's not going to kill the whole game. I don't care if it's a trash system. It can be a trash system. That's fine. But this idea that it's just killing all of loot and there's nothing that's going to work because tier 0 is just like, just take a minute, man. It's okay. It's okay to be unhappy about it. It's just the hyperbolic nature of it is like, it's too much. All right, let's move on to tier 2, because this is like the most simple part, or rather the most simple change. Tier 2 is just basically making it so that when you do loot an item, you have the option to sell it, dismantle it for crafting, or to restore it with the potential cost of crafting and materials and credits to make it your own. This system creates a viable path for piracy, allowing you to claim another person's belongings if you take the necessary steps to legitimize ownership. So that actually does kind of sound like they're still going to do some level of you need to legitimize ownership or else you could get in trouble for it. But they don't mention it here. And this is really the crux of the problem, is they're describing a massive system with just a few bullet points here and there. And there's probably a lot unsaid here that's going to make people not as unhappy about this. That being said, blueprints are important, and I hope that they have just stuff unmentioned here about blueprints. They said if an item has a cosmetic applied, restoring it will remove the cosmetic in the process. I will also think it should remove any stat changes, any crafting, any upgraded, anything like that. Give us the base item. %, 95% of the loot you think in your backpack is armor or guns. Why would you loot 5 Karnas if you don't lose the one you have? Makes no sense. To sell them. To supply your friends. To put more guns on your ship. You see content creators seeing cool armor in PvP in 4.1 and then being sad they can't loot it and then blaming tier 0. But if it wasn't for tier 0, people wouldn't be wearing it. It sucks to not see something cool and be able to loot it. That's like a really big hit if you're just jumping into the game and that happens. That's like, what? This is strange. This is weird. But you know what? So is f***ing everything about Star Citizen. How many things do we have to explain to people when they jump into this game? And I'm discounting the entirety of how to freaking play it too. Like there's a tutorial in the game, but you got to teach someone how to get through this tutorial. You won't carry a backpack after T0, to be honest. Hey man, you play how you want. That's the beauty of it. It really isn't permadeath. Oh, you talk about Death of a Spaceman. You guys got that Death of a Spaceman convo is persistent in this talk. They finish this off by saying, the introduction of item recovery is a significant step towards making gear persistence more meaningful while maintaining the risk-reward balance of looting. Tier 0 and 4.1 is just the beginning, and as we further integrate into the broader crafting and insurance systems, we'll be actively refining and updating with the help of your feedback throughout the PTU process. So I'll tell you what, the best way to get them to change this is to go play 4.1, get the data, type out a real good summary of it, and explain why it is going to kill the game. What's going to end up happening is they will get a whole bunch of feedback telling them that T0 sucks, and that will encourage them to get to tier 1 first. Unfortunately, the feedback we give them on how tier 0 works is not going to get them to change how the entirety of item recovery works. So if you're angry about tier 0 item recovery, the best way to handle that is to... I don't know. Because it's temporary. You can tell them what your problems are on it, but I don't know how important it is. Depends on how long it lasts. How long do I think it'll last? 2 years of no comp, different stats has you worried? Yeah, I don't think it's going to be 2 years. I think this is like a this year kind of thing. You know why you will want to loot a metric boatload of the same weapon? So you can disassemble it and get better at crafting that weapon. Just a thought. Yeah, but that's even after tier 0. They're saying they don't want to wear a backpack because of tier 0. And to be quite honest, okay, feel free, do it. That's good luck to you. I use my backpack for more than guns and ammo. I got tractor beams. I've got replacement ammo, armor if I need it. I've got extra grenades. I've got medical tools, medical pens. The only thing they really need to do to get people to start wearing backpacks again, if they were just if that ever is a problem, which it's not going to be a problem, everybody's just going to still wear backpacks. But if they really wanted to be like, okay, guys, let's show you that loot matters, they could just take. Let's see, I'm sure we have. I think we showed this last week. No. Artifact. How about a singular artifact? There we go. They could just take these, get a junior artist to work on them, throw them in the game, make them worth a couple tens of thousands of resources, and scatter them throughout Pyro. Whoop-de-doo. Suddenly, it's not all about what gun you're carrying. It's about what artifacts and minables they have in their backpack. Like, this is not a fundamental problem. The idea that looting is going downhill. I could see it being a problem with crafting and the necessity of that. But as far as like looting gameplay, this is a temporary issue. And as somebody who likes to loot, yeah, it's going to be a bummer, but it doesn't ruin the game for me right now. And that's about it. That's going to be another deep dive. I'm like, all of these are going to be some short news videos for everybody, and then we're talking about this for like 40 minutes. Special foods. Dude, I love looting, man. I pick up things I don't need. I'll get all the silencers and the compensators and stuff. It's just a good time. It's fun gameplay. And I know a lot of people get fun gameplay from getting the stuff people are carrying. Like, of all the things I want to say, I'm not trying to discredit people who don't like that. I'm just trying to emphasize that it's not, last forever. Take slam. Find drugs. Let's see. What else are we going to talk about today? I think we're going to talk about 4.1. Oh boy, 4.1. Because a couple people now have asked, like, what's the big deal about 4.1? So I figured we go through the features and stuff that's coming with it and talk about why it's significant. As with a lot of the updates from Star Citizen, 4.1 isn't significant for the exact stuff that's coming in it. It's significant for what that stuff can mean for the future. When salvage came into Star Citizen, it was new. It was new gameplay. It was certainly something that was fun to do. But it was more exciting because it just meant that they were going to keep working further on salvage and get us more stuff to do. And then after this, we got ship munching, we got the multi-crew stuff, we got the boxes, and then we got the new missions, and now we have like some interesting sandbox activities that use salvage. So even while the initial release of salvage was like kind of exciting and cool, it wasn't until a little later in the game that it really got good. The same can be said about things like the cargo refactor, the personal inventory system, which we first saw in 3.15, and server meshing even is like that. It is currently kind of rough, but it is going to be something that keeps on giving dividends. And so there are things in 4.1 that I think have that same energy. And we're going to go over that here in a bit after we get through this Death of a Spaceman conversation and talk about why 4.1 is actually kind of a big deal for this game, despite it not being like a ball drop. Mic drop? Yeah, mic drop. What's my opinion on the looting interface? You find it very confusing still? I think it can be refined. I always forget that you can access armor and stuff. It's still not, it doesn't work intuitively, but I think it is much better than what we used to have, and it's going in the right direction. Does Bellular talk about Star Citizen? You were excited for the owners of the Reclaimer who owned a ship for years they couldn't use. Yeah, and like it's still painful to use it, but at least they can use it. Do you think that 4.1 will be the last big patch before 1.0? No. No. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. I think we'll be at 4.10 at least before we see 1.0. That's just here for funsies. We're going to see 4.2, 4.3, 4.4. It's going to keep going. Oh yeah, there is a new inventory UI being worked on. Thank God. There's no way with a game that encourages PvP in contested zones that permadeath is going to be something that impactful or even pervasive to the average gamer. I disagree. I think for the reasons that I said before, they can still make death have consequences. A singular viewpoint is not the general consensus of the community. Yeah. That's why I think the best way to go about it is to just give a studio the ability to do what they want to do. And that goes for anything. That goes for Star Citizen, The Witcher 4, the new Star Wars game, Atomfall, anything, any game. Like, just let a studio do what they want to do and see how it comes out. If it sucks, that sucks. But they probably gave somebody else a really good idea that we'll then see down the line. Like if Star Citizen fails, at least they weren't stopped back in 2017. And they were able to do this whole thing for 12 years and make it clear to other people that people want to see a cool interactive first-person space game. So now if Star Citizen fails, we've got some other space games that are trying to do that. That wouldn't have happened if we didn't let Star Citizen at least try to do what it's trying to do. I think it's kind of free market sort of thing, I guess. Let them mess up if they're going to mess up. But it's better that they try and do what they're going to do and fail at it than trying to do what everyone tells them to do and not ever reach their goal. CIG thought 3.x would end with 3.24. Lucid, my friend, you know better than that. They thought, yeah, they thought it would end with 3.4. Not saying it will be consequence free, just that you'll probably have to actively backspace 20 times in a row to reach permadeath. Yeah. Yeah, and even then, I doubt it's going to be permadeath. Like, you could probably still find a way to get your character back or something. Oh, they also said that there's going to be ways to extend the amount of cycles you can have during your lifetime. So that could also be something that we can get through meeting certain mission givers, through working for certain factions, maybe a high-level reputation reward that you get for working for a science company is another imprint or something. Like, they can play with that too. They can start working the death mechanic into the reward mechanics. CR's permadeath was inspired by Dark Souls, but Dark Souls is a single player where that works, not an MMO setting. Yeah, they've got to change it from how Dark Souls does it to work for multiplayer. Someone said they aren't sad that SC is taking so long, but they are sad that they aren't 10 other studios making such a large scale and innovative games. I would agree there. I would be really interested in seeing what Rockstar could do if they weren't held back by needing to be a commercial success all the time. There's also another company that's been doing great work. They made... Is it Zephyr Studios? No. What is the name? They made the latest Space Marine, I believe. They made the Halo 1 anniversary, or was it Halo 2? They're Saber Interactive. They made the Halo anniversary game, and it blew them the heck up. I was just reading about it the other week. Apparently, I know, it's a Space Tomato stream. There's going to be a mention of Halo. They they said that they wanted to do the Halo remake. So Microsoft was like, okay, give us a price and make it happen. And then they did the project, but they got the deal in a way that meant they wouldn't get a lot of the payment for the actual game coming out, like the sales over time. I don't think they were getting royalties or something. Oh, right, because he was going to offer to do it for free, because he knew that if they nailed Halo as an anniversary, they would just skyrocket in the name of gaming, right? So they offered it for free, but Microsoft was like, no, we're paying you so that you do good work. So they did the good work, they got paid, but they weren't getting the royalties. But because the game took a while to come out, I think, or something happened, they were able to renegotiate right before the game released, and it already looked really good. And they snuck in the chance to get royalties. So that blew up the studio. They started doing a whole bunch more stuff, and most recently they released a new Space Marines game. That was a huge success, and apparently they've been tagged for another pretty big project. So it's those kinds of awesome studios that know how to do what they want to do and know how to they know what kind of games they want to make. I would love to just see them be able to do something like what Star Citizen's doing. Just go out, get funded by people who are passionate about what you do, and make something amazing. I feel like that's kind of like what Hello Games does. They just figured out a way to make it work. Always happy about that company. Larian actually, yeah, Larian is a good example of that too. IOI, yeah. IO Interactive, right? They do good stuff as well. Yeah, good for them. Good for Saber. Okay, so let's talk about 4.1. Actually, give me a cool second. I'm gonna go nom on some bread real quick. Be right back. Come on, chair. I don't have one of those things you can roll your chair on, so it's kind of difficult. Mrs. Tomato made some bread over the weekend. She's very good at cooking things. You guys know we do cooking streams, and it's delicious. By the way, if you like cooking streams and food, we talk about food a lot on this stream, but we also make it. We do cooking streams every week, where we just kind of make good stuff. And lately, we've been doing it blindfolded, which has been interesting. So if you want to check that out, come through on Wednesday. RSI chair, you working for Chris after all? Dude. You know how much faster we would have gotten a place to live. If Rockstar made a space game like Star Citizen, it would have an amazing single player mode, but they would abandon the online community just like they did RDR. Or maybe they would abandon the single player mode for the online version, huh? You get so round if you made bread that good all the time. That's why I get bigger when we're in Turkey. Now, I don't know what's gonna happen here, because up until this year, we haven't had a place to live in America, so she hasn't been able to make bread. When we go back to Turkey, we have more access because we actually, there's a place over there. And so I eat a bunch of bread and I get tomato large. But now we have a kitchen here. So what do I do? Yeah, my camera's messed up. I don't know why. Funny, it's a brand new camera. OBS bot. Why do your cameras do this? Okay. Whoa, that's weird. Kitchens are important. Yeah, they're pretty important. Why have an alpha and us test if they just get to do whatever they want to do? Well, they don't do whatever they want to do. They do whatever makes more money. Embrace the bread goodness and become round tomato. Round like a loaf. Round tomato. Aren't all tomatoes round? You know what? I wonder if it's because it's charging. Here you go. All right. I just unplugged the camera. Let's see if that speeds it up at all. Maybe it's not good when it's plugged in. All right, let's talk about 4.1. Star Citizen 4.1 was announced sometime. I don't even know when, but we knew it was coming at some point. It's the Q1 update. They're still doing their 4 updates a year model, I guess, 4 big updates. This is something they've been doing all the way back since 2017. They started with 3.0 in 2017 and then 3.1 in March of 2018. Now, y'all see what time it is here. It is March, so this makes sense. It's online, but they slowly slipped on their schedule. So first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. The next one was April, though. And so the updates started to slip further and further back over the years. You can go to the next year and you can see it's in April 29th. Then you go to the next year, it's the 22nd. And the following year, it's the 29th again. And then the following year, it's in freaking May. So they were never great at their timing on these quarterly updates, but they did try to push 4 a year every year. Now, the difference between this year and other years is that this was the whole priority. These were feature-focused patches that were meant to just build the game out and try and get as many features in as possible so that people could use them, play them, run them through their paces, and they could make sure it just functioned in the engine. This was their autopilot phase, we'll call it, because they were just kind of adding stuff in and not really focused on any one direction other than making things play. Now, they kind of started to change this towards 3.18 because they went from time-focused updates to content-focused updates with things like persistent entity streaming in 3.18, with the replication layer stuff going on and somewhere around here with Vulkan and image upscaling, and then finally with server meshing. This pushed them to have to do certain updates at certain times. That's why we had the last 2 years. It was really all over the place. But since 4.0, something new has started happening. They're putting in content and bug fixing focused patches every month. And instead of getting a 4.0.1 or a 4.0.2 at random intervals, they are now happening at the end of each month. And that on its own is also nothing new. Even all the way back here, you could see we had 3.3.5. There was a 3.9.1, 3.10.2, 3.15.2, 3.18.2. There were a whole bunch of, this is not a new thing, but now they're tying them to time-based schedule, and they're releasing them monthly. And they've been doing a good job so far, but we'll see if they can stick to it. Either way, that has led people to be a little confused about what's going to happen with 4.1. But now that they've revealed it, we can see that there is some interesting stuff planned, and it's a bigger deal than it might seem. So let's start with the mission giver first. I actually put a video out about this already, so it's not as interesting. We won't spend as much time, but Wicklow is the first mission giver we've seen since all the way back in like 3.5 with Tisha. And the thing about Tisha is she doesn't really function. Sorry, girl. Like most mission givers, you don't know what you're doing in game. And that's always been a big problem for us. But the monthly reports have shown that they are starting to work on mission givers again. The narrative team is talking about how they're getting people into the game that represent factions. So Hurston Dynamics, R-Corp, Microtech, all these different factions we've known for a long time are going to finally start having faces and people and voices associated with them. And that's good for us because that makes the game a lot less boring. But it also means more missions like Tisha's, which if you've run through hers, you know it's probably one of the more interesting missions in the game. Now, Wickelow's not a paradigm shift. He just calls you and tells you to get some stuff. That's not really why it's a big deal. The big deal is more just what it means and the fact that they're focusing on it again. This is really, really big for people who are looking for solo play, because we've all been saying for the longest time there's plenty to do in this game. You just got to make your own fun. But a lot of people just want to jump into an experience and experience it. And that's what this is. This is all about the narrative stuff. Now, question in chat, will the other characters work now also? That is part of what we started to see last year. Before we even knew that a mission giver was coming in 4.1, we already saw in monthly reports that they were working on mission givers. They were testing how they could update them and how they could get them working. And with server meshing in, I do think that it's going to be easier for them to be running. Will they be running in 4.1? I don't know. We'll jump in and see. But I think they'd make a bigger deal out of it if they got them all fixed. They might be reworking all their mission chains. You think the danger runs both ways when devs think they know better than gamers what gamers want? This can also cause massive problems. Blizzard knows all about this. Yeah. But if the studio's good, then they'll learn how to switch it up and repair themselves. Not gonna lie, guys. We all love to hate EA, but they know how to keep themselves afloat. Look at how Ubisoft is doing compared to how EA is doing. Who was the more evil company 10 years ago? Who's still the more evil company? Ubisoft's just not a great publisher. EA is like a terrible company. But they still know how to pump out pretty solid hits that are wildly their own thing, that aren't trying to be mainstream. They know how to back winners. EA might not be doing great, but compared to Ubisoft, EA clearly knows how to EA knows what gamers want more than Ubisoft does, in my opinion. They just put out Split Fiction, which is like definitely not the kind of game you would expect to do amazingly well. They put out a couple other games just recently that I think I looked at them and I was like, okay, I'm glad you guys are still supporting stuff like that. Yeah, EA has some bad games. I'm not saying that all of EA's games are wins. I'm saying that EA is doing a good job of supporting gamers in the ways that they want to be supported while also still being terrible. Like, look at The Sims. Right, Battlefield 6, that's what I was thinking of. Again, EA is clearly trying to win back their people because they know that they need to listen to their people. And my whole point was that they're doing a better job than Ubisoft. Maybe Ubisoft is going to do better at it. Maybe Shadows is going to be more stealth-oriented, more about like the crunchiness of that old Assassin's Creed trilogy. But they got lost for a while. Right, the Star Wars series are good, just not well optimized. Ubisoft's still open. Dude, Assassin's Creed Shadows coming out this week. I don't know about all you, but I'm pumped for that game. I'm going to be playing that once I can find a way to buy it. I'm definitely playing that game. EA is trying to turn around by shaking up Bio and a few other their studios. Yeah, I mean that's what I'm seeing. They also, I think, tried to go back to what they were doing with Dragon Age. I don't think they really got there, but I can see a lot more of that energy from EA than I expect from them. Someday, big companies will learn to just buy multiple indies and let them do their thing instead of trying to absorb and micromanage. There's a couple publishers that do that. Coffee Stain, I think, does that pretty well. Annapurna did that until they just started firing everybody for some reason. There's another one that does that in the where are they based? I think it's a European publisher. But yeah, more companies need to do that. I hope CIG moves in that direction eventually. Not that they need to buy up indies. I hope they themselves have their studios do their own things once Star Citizen's in a good place. Oh, Split Fiction is a potential Game of the Year contender. Not a Dragon Age game? Okay. You're first going to watch some YouTubers play it to see if you truly are going to spend money on AC. That's the way to go. Low risk and high value. The Hopium about the Apollo was just explaining why I think it might come out this year, but probably not. So maybe Hopium wasn't the best statement for that. Sorry. What else is in 4.1 that has people excited? Well, the Volt weapon is not actually a huge deal, but it is, again, a sign of changing times. With the context, it makes a bigger deal. If you go back in the roadmap, just like with Mission Givers, all the way back here, you'll see that we were getting weapons pretty regularly. We got ship weapons, we got, ooh, here's the Karna. We got player weapons, FPS weapons, the F-55's over here. Got the S-38, good favorite. The Lumen 5 is a good one. The Sal, nobody uses this thing. Sniper rifles, more sniper rifles, SMGs, pistols, all kinds of stuff. Just weapons on weapons on weapons, all the way up until 312. And then there is nothing. So the idea that, well, this reinforces the idea that this team was removed from Star Citizen and just sent to Squadron 42, because that's where most of the weapon play had to be done. So we just weren't getting weapons from the year 2020 all the way up until, well, 4.1. And again, it's not a huge deal that we're getting weapons, but it is a big deal that the team clearly has enough leeway, enough freedom to start developing stuff for the PU again. And they did say also that after they release this first Parallax in 4.1, they will probably release the Quartz or the SMG in 4.1.1 and continue on from there, because there's like 3 or 4 of them, I think. So we're starting to see some more movement in Star Citizen. It's not a lot, it's not a ton. I still think Squadron is defining how Star Citizen gets developed, but it is a sign that that kind of thing's happening. And we see that with narrative too, which we'll get to in a second. There was a post for 4.1 on here about the Volt weapons, wasn't there? Was it the roundup? No, I think it was the previous roundup. LH86 was basically a new gun. Well, the Arclight also changed that patch. Here, I think it was here. Yeah, so we got the Parallax, the Quartz. Those are the two they added, which is the SMG. But we also know there is a pistol and a sniper rifle, so I think there's 4 weapons in total. So they'll be trickling those out as well and probably working on a couple more weapons too. We know that there's that AK, that pyro-looking AK. There's the Novia crossbow, which we still haven't seen. They're working on non-lethal weaponry like tasers. So FPS weaponry is back on the table. Okay, then we move on from there. And the next thing on the roadmap that's coming up is armor. This hasn't even been shown in the PTU. This might not even be a 4.1 thing. This might be 4.1.1. But as we could see, they're bringing in new armor sets. This is significant because just like with weapons, I don't even know when the last time we got armor was. There's not as much armor variety in the game as with weapons. I think the last time we might have seen something would have been here with the actor status system and like weather, and they gave us some bigger armors. There might be a couple special edition ones that we've gotten that are like subscriber gear that they've moved in and variants and stuff like that. Have we gotten armor pretty recently outside of that? They don't really put it on the roadmap, huh? It's like a lot of the special stuff. Morozov, yeah, that's right. Morozov is new. The Tavarin inspired one is pretty new. There are a couple other combat focused ones, right? Artemix is pretty new, right? And then, yeah, so they've brought in like the dusters and the faction based armor and then that bounty hunting armor. So they did better at armor in Star Citizen. That is true. Not as important an announcement or an addition. Whoa, the rain just started. Whoa. Can you guys hear that rain just like smashing into what the? Oh my God, what's going on? Why does it just suddenly start raining so heavily? And I took the chairs. Oh, freaking shit. I'll be right back, guys. Okay, sorry everybody, I'm back. It is hailing and raining. It's sleeting. I had just moved our our outside chairs back outside because I thought it was done raining. Whew, so I had to go get those. Oh my God, that was a lot of running. Okay, back to what we were talking about. Sorry for anybody who's getting in here and it's like, what's all that noise? It's hailing. So, oh my God, I'm tired. Armor set, not a huge deal on its own, but it also does kind of speak towards something else that is planned to happen soon, which is customization here. So, here's what they had to say about armors that are starting to come into the game.
We were always going to make sure that you look your best, but now with added purpose. So to recap, we're going to go through adding intent and purpose to all our clothing and armor sets. As designers, we really want the visuals to match the stats that our great character art team have made. So for example, if a pair of pants look particularly armored, chances are they'll have modest damage mitigation to match. Many armors will be specialized for distinct use cases. Currently, we realize right now bigger is generally better when it comes to FPS armor, and we know that shouldn't always necessarily be the case. There will be some armors that won't have EVA thrusters built into the suit, so you lose EVA capability. Some armors won't even be space-worthy. Specializations means getting better at certain things at the cost of attributes and others. This is about compelling you, the player, to make tactical decisions for every situation you may find yourself in. So now let's look at some practical use cases for the Star Wars system. Whilst all our armors are becoming specialized, let's take a look at a select few, which I will add are some of my favorites.
So we are. The important thing to note here is that even if we go to, I'll just pick a random just to show you kind of how much this was a thing last year. Star Citizen, give me a month. First month that pops up in chat, I'll search it. It's got to end in Y. No, it doesn't. Just give me a month. Ready? Go. How much lag is there on this stream? Let's see. What does it take? May monthly report. There is a good chance. God, I shouldn't do this to myself. There is a good chance. Yeah, we did it. Okay, that's always scary that I'm going to be wrong. In the art section last May, they completed the high poly phase for 2 specialist armors and continued updating utility armor. A new heavy specialist armor began development too. So there's just grabbing out of the freaking bag. You can find any month really last year. They were talking about armors being worked on. And then we saw this whole thing with Starware at CitizenCon. Clearly, they are diving back into armor in a new way with sort of more conviction. And it's not... This is not a new thing. Once again, it might seem like they're whipping it out of nowhere or suddenly complicating armor. They're not. Here is 2019. Richard Tyrer talking about where they wanted to go with armor even back then.
All power. So you can have different power if you're buying a new ship. And we want armor to be almost like your own personal ship when you're walking around the verse. We want absolute meaningful differences between that light, medium, and heavy armor class. And so where does that start? First off, it starts off by giving it all power. So you can have different power ratings. Then we have different signatures in terms of EM, in terms of IR that tie into FPS stealth. Then you've got inventory. Now inventory is, like you said, it's, you've got a physicalized backpack, but it goes more than that. That backpack's going to be modular. You'll be able to attach different sizes of backpack, and they will only go onto different pieces of armor. So you'll have to make meaningful choices. And then you've got life support, which is, how much oxygen can I carry? What's the climate control in this system? What temperature can it survive? And temperature is something I'll be going on again further on. But again, then you look at, say, for example, the next layer is subcomponents. Now, as I took through the weapons, you look at attachments. It allows you to further specialize or further diversify. That's what subcomponents are going to be. If you want to, put heavy armor on, but you want to add more armor plating, or you want, emission dampeners, or you want further utility and gadgets that we release in the future, that's where subcomponents come in. But really, that's just the armor classes themselves. That's the light, medium, and heavy armor classes. And that's kind of like just the base foundation, kind of how I was saying in the weapons, you've got your base classes. Now, where's the exotic gameplay? So that's when we're looking at, say, the classes and play styles. So we want to support the player careers. So in the PU, you want to be a miner. You want to be a bounty hunter. You want to be a fighter. You want to be an explorer. We want to support those on the ship side, but we also want to support them on...
Just to let you see, it gets a little bit more complicated. So he has the whole matrix here. But then they even go into how, like temperature mitigation, body protection will depend on which limbs are actually protected. So are you wearing armored legs, or are you just wearing an armored core? That kind of stuff will even have an effect on like how well you can mitigate temperature and stuff. They've had these plans for this, and this is actually where they announced this stuff. stuff. So this was the first time they really gave us any sort of stats on armor in game. But this stats system was super, super basic compared to now what they're talking about doing with Starware, which it does look like is part of what's going on here. Oh, not there. Here.
We picked 6 generalized stats to give you like a high-level understanding of how various clothing and armors we specialized. This is by no means a comprehensive list of everything we have available to us. It's just a little, yeah. So here you can see the lead.
Yeah, the pouches are going to be really cool. I can't wait for that. So you guys think that this is the suit that they just put in the game, and that this is gonna? I mean, yeah. That makes sense. Now, everything that we see in the game is probably being created for this system, even if this system isn't in the game. So we'll notice a lot more unique features of the armor. Because like he said, if you have more protection or more mobility or something like that, physically that'll be represented by the art of the suit that you're wearing. So then this, not that, this, no, not that, this, here we go. This armor set could also be a pretty significant deal to be added to the game. Again, not for what it means for that exact moment, but what it shows their perspective and their focus is on and direction they're heading is in. Moving on, we'll come back to space combat missions. The other big thing that we've seen in this is the Hathor locations. And these are a big deal because, well, they're locations that have been added that don't just tell you to do one thing and then leave. Isn't the heavy set they show off also being put in game? Maybe. The heavy set. This one? These guys? They look pretty combat focused. Oh yeah, there's also a stealth suit. So there's a utility suit and a stealth suit they've been working on. And then in that roadmap, in that monthly report we were just reading, they mentioned another suit. But yeah, the Hathor ground alignment stations. These are new ground locations, unlike any really we've had before. The closest parallel to these we have in game right now are contested zones, but these are not meant to play like contested zones. These are open area, open sky, completely accessible locations inside of crime stats that aren't meant to encourage you to loot, but have plenty of loot for you to find. Aren't meant to encourage you to shoot people, but will require you to shoot people if you're there to do certain things. These are locations that just fit into a larger sandbox narrative that you can interact with or not at any point during the process. And this is almost legitimate dynamic events. Because the whole point of a dynamic event is something that players can trigger that occurs in game that changes the game environment. In order to make this happen, you have to get a group of players together to trigger a couple different lockers, to move a couple key cards around, to activate a couple systems, both here on the ground and all the way up in space in orbit around the moon, to then fire off a laser that penetrates the ground and causes other things to happen. I'm going to get to this week in Star Citizen. It causes new enemies to spawn. It might cause new minables to show up. We don't know entirely everything that it does, but this is just one little puzzle piece to the overall Star Citizen that can persist in this game forever, that allows for us to get something that can be interacted with in the game and make a huge difference that isn't just like laid out to you and told to do. I would love the idea of tripping into any cool game that I enjoy. I've been playing a little bit of Avowed. If I stepped into Avowed and just kind of puttered around the game world and came across some button, and if I pressed that button and then another button on the other side of the river, I could create a dam in the river that creates this lake, and then the place that gets dried up from the dam suddenly has a bunch of loot I can get. That's really freaking cool. And to me, that's what this is kind of doing on a larger scale. So I'm excited to see how this plays out, because I think this is the first big version of this, and I hope that it works out how they want it to. Yeah, I didn't really consider comm array hacks dynamic events. I mean, they kind of are. They're just not really eventimous. But I definitely think the security post Korea change they made and the Ghost Hollow mission were both small dynamic events. Yeah. And they're slowly growing bigger and bigger. We started small, and all the events that were shown as dynamic, like Jumptown, weren't actually, but these are. And this is something that will attract players' attention. It will create for new opportunities. It will make situations that you literally cannot write, because it will all depend on what's going on at that exact moment. This is so good for the game, in my opinion. Better than contested zones, better than missions. In some ways, better than even mission givers. But it's nice that in 4.1 we're getting both something like this that really benefits group gameplay and also can be good for solo gameplay. And we're also getting something like this, which really benefits solo gameplay, but also has some pretty good benefits for group gameplay. It's just like, this is, I think, a really well-balanced patch. Correct you if you're wrong, but didn't Hathor also kind of come out of nowhere? They didn't really hint at it before. To the PU, we've known about the group. They've existed in the lore for quite a while, and they were in the theaters of war. But as far as being put into the PU, we had no idea this was coming. No. And I don't think this is the last time we'll see it this year. I think this is the type of standard they want to set for these major updates. Now, the last thing that I haven't touched on that I said we get back to is the space combat missions. And these are, it says, improved scenario design and refined storytelling for ship combat. I don't think these are in the game, are they? Has anybody tested these in the PTU? I am not aware. But I'll say this. Combat missions are so much better when it's escort this player or protect this ship than when it's just go to this place and kill 2 ships. Any kind of objective and narrative added to it is better than these boring bounties we've been running all this time. Oh my gosh. And I don't know if these are going to be actually, like, I don't think these will replace bounties. These will probably go into the mercenary section. But better space combat is nice, right? That's pretty solid. We've seen a couple of missions that they've worked on for this in the past. I don't know if I'd be able to find one off the top of my head. Let's say... I mean, I guess let's try the May monthly report again. What harm could it do? They were working on some space combat focused gameplay missions a little while ago. I don't know how far back I'd have to go to find it, but they've had some missions in the back burner that used combat, and it very well could be that we're doing that. These are missions that required you to follow a ship around that was like stopping off at different locations and quantum jumping around the system. They might do that. They might have us follow an AI through quantum travel and help them get through Pyro or something. I don't know. But the idea that we are also going to be seeing combat in this patch is not as important to me because combat is everywhere. But it is, again, just nice balance to an overall patch. Now, this isn't just about these things. This is also about... Oh, I'd also like to say that with these sandbox locations, because this whole emphasis on how long it took for us to get mission givers and weapons, just to be clear, sandbox locations also are pretty hit or miss for Star Citizen. Obviously, we get locations like the space stations, we get the colonialism outposts, and we got some like derelicts, I think, all the way back here. Maybe here? Yeah, derelicts and derelict outposts all the way back in 317, but look at how sparse they were even then. Going all the way back to 315, this is the first stuff that Turbulent ever worked on. So this is when they acquired the Montreal studio. They got their hospitals done, sure, but hospitals don't do much for us, right? Gameplay-wise. Move forward some more. And you got derelict spaceships. Okay, we've seen a couple of those, but I don't know how many of you got more than like maybe a few visits out of this before it got really repetitive. The loot wasn't great. The AI weren't great. The locations themselves were kind of iffy. And the puzzles were pretty easy. Moving forward after that, we saw some additional Lagrange locations, colonialism outposts, which gave us some better missions, but the freaking dropships that showed up here to give us AI didn't work. A lot of times you'd show up here and there'd just be nothing to do, no loot to get, anything like that. So those locations didn't do much. The Derelict Reclaimer settlement was good because we got Ghost Hollow. This was probably the last sandbox location that gave us good things to do. But even then, still, AI was lacking and loot was just not there. So you keep going forward and you got hospitals, Daymar crash site, which was okay. And then you started getting these caves. These caves would come in and not really give us any gameplay with them. Got the sand caves, got the acidic caves, got the rock caves, got Loreville remade, not much there. Seraphim Station just replaced Port Olisar. Crusader platforms, they lost the missions that don't work there. So you can see this trend of locations coming into the game and offering some good stuff here and there, which was appreciated at the time. And they definitely look good. But as far as gameplay goes, this is arguably one of the most fully featured locations we've ever seen in the game. And even taking into account Ghost Hollow, that was still back in 2022. So this also is kind of a big deal because it has interaction with the environment. It has loot that is challenging to get and causes you to go there. AI that works. Plenty of space to experiment, and there's some form of objective for you to work through. And I think this is going to be a very exciting and long-term addition for folks. But then we go on to the item recovery, which we just talked about at length. We won't get back into this, but this is also a big change. And for a whole bunch of different reasons, for a whole bunch of different people, this is going to have a pretty profound effect on how this game is played, and thus making 4.1 come off a little bit bigger. There's also, I believe, a lot of ship rebalancing has been going on, so it shows a lot more work going into the quality of life of the game and of the ship experience. The momentum and mass calculations for ships are being changed so that they make more sense when ships encounter one another. Your Aurora is not going to blow up with a Polaris when it hits it, kind of thing. What else is there? There's a lot of little things. I'm sure we'll start getting some more patch watches over the next week or two that tell us more about the different things that are changing here. But as far as what people I think were expecting with this new form of patches every month, 4.1 has come off as a pretty big surprise for many folks. And even if it was a regular patch during a regular year, you can see that there's plenty of stuff in here that we would not normally get. Even before 3.18, when we were getting the pretty content heavy patches, the sandbox locations we were getting didn't function quite how we wanted. There was nothing in terms of narrative being added. The dynamic events we were getting weren't actually dynamic. And the gameplay itself, I don't think was as engaging. They were focused more on features. Now they're focused more on content. But I think we're starting to see the effects of that, and it's got people pretty excited for 4.1. Big thing that matters is how many glitches can they fix and how much stability can they pump into this. So we'll see how that goes. But at least for now, as far as the additions in 4.1, I hope that helps understand why people are actually excited for the patch. You still remember 2.0? Oof. Yeah, 2.0 was a ways away. That was a time ago. You want some destroy a Death Star type missions? Where you have to fly around and destroy the ship's emitters before flying inside and shooting the weak point? Maybe Xenothreat will have more to do with that now, if they can get engineering and component damage and stuff working on the Javelin. Lowered requirements doesn't change the material. The issue is that it's a big event for several players, which is amazing, just not so amazing for the small ships. What are you talking about? Are you talking about Wickelow's small ship offerings require the same materials for small solo ships as is required for the large ships, and that a line of mine is the only way to get those materials? That's kind of oof. Yeah, there'll have to be more ways to get those materials. It's kind of like how they wanted to lock components to contested zones in Pyro. Honestly, that was like a really big problem for a lot of people. How much have you guys heard people complaining about that since contested zones came out? Probably should require different materials too. What was that event where you had to shoot the butt of the ship with ballistics to get into it? Well, that's true for any ship. You might be thinking of... What would you be thinking of there? Maybe... Oh, the Idris? Oh. Is that Save Stanton? No, is that Xenothreat? Or you land inside and have to plant charges. Yeah, if they reworked Xenothreat so that you had to get on board and actually damage the power plant to blow it up, that would be very reminiscent of Battlefield 2142, which might make me cry. The components being CZ items is actually a bit mental, but I don't even, has it been that bad? Yeah, my camera's not doing right. I know. Was I a Battlefield fan? Yes. Huge Battlefield fan. It comes up occasionally. Not as much as Halo. Or Deus Ex. Or Mass Effect. A lot of sci-fi games. You love the contested zones having components there is good, but only if you get proper marketplace to sell player to player. It'd be nice to be able to sell stuff right now. I just don't know how much stuff is actually limited to components. Is it just the ships that you get from unlocking them, or are there actual components you can find in there? I think at the end of the day, it just comes down to them spreading that stuff around a little bit more. Maybe being able to find those components in forward operating bases in Stanton for some reason. You don't think PvP being a route to components but having it be the only route to the components is really bothersome? I do, yeah, I think it's something that should be taken care of sooner rather than later. Favorite sci-fi or space game that's not Star Citizen? Going by series, I would probably say Halo. Spend a decent amount of credits upgrading your ship components 4.0 going to keep your loadouts intact. They should. If you store your ships, make sure they're good to go. Pretty good. You were looking for a new game to buy. You have Game Pass by any chance? It's not a favorite game, but Atomfall is about to come out, I believe. I was actually really interested in this game, but I wasn't planning on getting it. And then I found out it's coming to Game Pass, and I'm like, okay, I'm playing this immediately. It just says March. When the heck does it release? Oh, March 27th, okay. Yeah, another week. Glad they're focusing on bugs now. We just wanted to enjoy the game for at least 30 minutes without bugging out. Steam Spring Sale is on at the moment too. The Steam Spring Sale. Okay. This weekend Star Citizen just came out. So why don't we talk about what's going on in Star Citizen this week? Topical. Last week opened 4.1 PTU to all backers, inviting everyone to jump in and test the latest patch. From crushing countless rocks while testing the vehicle and FPS mining updates to aligning the Hathor orbital laser platforms with precision and putting the new Volt weapons through their paces, you've played a tremendous role in preparing 4.1 for the live servers. We'll keep you updated on Spectrum as we get closer to the live release. Sorry guys, that's something else I forgot. Mining is also being updated in 4.1, which is big for them. They also mentioned that they kicked off Stella Fortuna, had a community bar crawl screenshot contest, special shout out to Anzia Racing. They had their Crux Cup 10th year anniversary. I believe Atmo also kicked off their System 7. And then for those in Germany, mark your calendar for the Con 42 near Frankfurt coming up in May, it looks like. All right, now what's coming up this week? Holy crap. Look at this, it's huge. This weekend, Star Citizen is just bursting. This Wednesday, as we lead up to the release of 4.1, we'll be dropping a new patch watch, that's what we were talking about, showcasing upcoming features, improvements, and fixes that aren't listed on the public roadmap. This would be the ship momentum changes we saw, the mining changes that we're getting, and probably like a couple other things. Thursday, we're excited for a new episode of Behind the Ships, where the vehicle team will give us a closer look at the upcoming Redacted set to arrive with Alpha 4.1. Huh. I guess we should be expecting there to be some kind of a vehicle coming with 4.1. Now, what could that be? We're wildly unaware, because over the last 2 months, they have completely removed the ship art section from the monthly report. So there's not really much knowing what it could be other than the leaks, which is not where we're going with this. We'll see though. I'm guessing they'll drop a couple teasers here and there. So yeah, the mining stuff that has changed is the rock now has bags that you can take and replace and move in and out. The prospector bags, I think, are working a little bit better. And it appears that the Atlas is getting its own bags, which makes some people believe, myself included, that maybe we'll see the ability to change out our utilities now. Put a mining laser on a tractor beam utility mount, which could mean also that maybe that change would come to the Rock DS and give us a tractor beam on the Rock. A mining laser on the Atlas? I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, that is... Oh, and then on Friday, the weekly RSI newsletter will enter in your inbox. So that's this week in Star Citizen. Not a ton going on. Obviously, this is how it's really going to be, I think, for most of this year. A lot of the news that we're going over now is basically just a response to the monthly events, or the monthly updates, because now there's not these big inside Star Citizens and then Star Citizen Live that gives us a lot of information to digest over the next week. There's basically what's going on in 4.0.1 or in 4.1.1 or 4.1. What's the next update doing on a monthly basis? It makes it easier to do that. But this is also why we're diving deeper into some of the smaller details lately. We'll see how it goes. But for now, that's what's going on this week. Come back on Wednesday and we'll have some gameplay to look into with 4.1 and maybe some more stuff to go over. But for now, we're going to talk about moderation in Star Citizen and how they can improve their social features to make the game work a little better for the people. Why have an Atlas mining box? Why not? Galawalaway, it's going to be a straight to flyable if it's coming with 4.1. I think they're only doing concept sales with the events now. If I was bread, what kind of bread would I be? Probably focaccia. If we could rely on in-game chat, I'd be so happy. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have news for you guys regarding moderation tools. I just want to talk about what they've said already. because it's worth touching on. I see it's popping up a lot more in discussion now in the community. And it has been now for quite a bit. Hey, Canonless, thank you so much for the super chat, my friend. I will tell you, I am wearing green, but I'm not going to tell you where. What is an AI blade? It adds some functionality to whatever you plug it into. They don't exist yet, though. When is the next event with ship sales? Do we know the dates yet? Well, right now Stella Fortuna is going on, so that probably has some sales. But the next big event's Invictus. That'd be late May. Why isn't this thing giving me water? Ooh. Hey, Tycho, how you doing? Good to see you. All right. Did you ever play more Elite after you started again the other week? Not yet. Not yet. I'm going to find some time here soon, but haven't gotten to jump in yet. When will they bring missions back that they removed? They're slowly doing it over time. I'm sure some more of them will come back with 4.1. Just a couple of last week, we got back the 890 jump mission. So I think they'll just keep going with every patch. We'll get more and more. Yeah, Piracy, basically automation on a very basic level. All right, let's us talk about moderation and chat, because a couple years ago, we saw a couple of posts talking about, dealing with comments like all Africans are inbred or all whites are inbred and things like that for over an hour, and no one really seems to care. For anybody who's been around Star Citizen for a really long time, there was this really, really nice aspect of global chat, and it was basically anybody who was playing the game was so beat back and abused and just happy to be there, passionate to be there, that everybody was just sort of melding, and chat was fairly cool. It got weird at times, but I find that Star Citizen's chat back in the 2017 to probably 2021-ish time period was perfectly fine. And then I would say with the big rush of new people in 2023, when May of 2023, I believe we were coming, maybe, was it May of 23 or 22? One of those years. It's either 23 or 22. We got a huge boost of new players. It's easy to find here. You just go to Twitch stats on the summary, and you look it up over the course of a long time. Here we are. Zoom in a little bit. Yeah, I think it was 2022. So right here was the biggest new joining of players, I think, in Star Citizen's history. Might have been 2023. I'm pretty sure it was 22. And it was you saw people like Jack Frags getting into it. Level Cap was getting into it. Freaking the big old Halo streamers I used to watch were getting into it. It's things were moving, and they were getting a lot of publicity. So a lot of people were joining, and from there on, we just saw so many new names, and I think chat got a little bit more crazy. It wasn't as much about just being there for Star Citizen. It was we're here to play a game. and I'm gonna spew my shit all over the place. Hey, Baltzen, dude, dropping 10 memberships, man. You better not. Don't drain your membership bag, my dude. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Much love, and I hope you guys give a shout out to Baltzen if you just got that membership gifted out to you. So, over the last couple of years, chat's been getting more and more intense. And definitely, over the last few days, I am now noticing more and more posts of people asking for some kind of help. This happened last year, too. People were like, hey, I'm just getting followed around, yelled at, and I can't do anything about it. You can't mute people. You can't block people. You can't do anything in this game. You can't even make it so that your global chat has any sort of filter. So here we see 2 days ago from Sand Cultural, somebody asked, do they have plans to moderate chat? I joined 2 different servers today and encountered servers that had 3/4 of the population talking about politics. They were saying slurs and repeating extremely hateful and racist talking points. Not particularly new. I mean, we all know this with online chat in general, but I want to emphasize Star Citizen's chat was not a big problem for most of this game's lifetime, and it was a smaller group. Another post 19 hours ago, Star Citizen or CIG, start moderating your global chat. The stuff being typed here is disgusting and out of control. Everything with open racism to spamming political messages is rampant now. F12 to close it. Forces those who actually want to use the global chat to do game-related stuff to not do it. This is like such a big problem, guys. You've seen on my own stream when we're trying to interact with people, pirate people, call people out, check with people. Even just like let someone know that an outpost is off limits for whatever reason. You can't tell them over voice because VoIP is broken. So when you go into global chat, you try to tell them and everything is just nonsense because you got 600 people looking at the same freaking 12 lines of text. And all the people who are like little children in their heads realize that they can just have potentially 600 people see what they say. And they're like, oh my God, I can say anything. And of course, it's racist stuff. Another post was made 12 hours ago saying, whenever I enter a server, it's always politics, it's always insults, it's always people calling each other's pedos and racists and the R word and the R slur and the F slur. Like, this is such a clear... This is a really clear and obvious trend. And I know these were all posted within like the last few days, but you can just go to the Reddit stuff about this. Some of it's about spectrum moderation, but like, here's another one. Please give us moderation tools. Oh, this person's letting people know that you do have custom chat channels. But again, that's only good if you're in a party or if you know the people. If you're running into people, you can't really do much to get their attention in this game besides flashing your flashlight at them. Croncy made a video about this 3 years ago. Croncy made a video about this. Somebody else made a thread about it 3 years ago. We need to be able to mute people, they said, and before people roll in, just hit F12 to disable global chat. I know that exists, I use it liberally, but it's not always a practical solution, especially during server-wide events when people need to coordinate. We are so used to working around bugs in this game that we actually think it's a solution for people who want to fix their problems. And a lot of times it is because they don't fix these things in due time and we have to wait. But it's worth acknowledging that just pressing F12 is not going to fix this problem. Not even close. People got to be able to talk. It's an MMO. You want to talk about space politics? What SC party does tomato support? Honestly, I haven't gotten caught up on the parties in a while. It's been, what, 4 years almost now since we did the vote? Let's see. Star Citizen Imperator campaign. I don't even... Do they have like a... Yeah. 5 years. It's been 5 years since we vote. I think they do it every 8 years. Or 10 years, I guess. I'm pretty sure I voted for Leilani. Because I'm a fool. But I look forward to doing the next one. I think the next one's going to be a lot more interesting. They didn't really get to do much with this over time. A mute option would be a minimal. Yeah. So let's jump into what their current plans are for this. Because they do have plans for this. It's just like everything else. Just a plan.
Are giving you.
I'll say this about this specific demonstration at CitizenCon. I was incredibly disappointed that this was all basically concept art. But I'm hopeful still that they can get it somewhere soon this year. I want to see something this year from this. We need chat options, especially if the game's going to become a game to game and have you game. We need to be able to talk. So here was their solution back in November.
And this is now going to be your one-stop shop for all of your friends and group gameplay. Now, this is the new and improved friends list. So you'll notice, sadly, one of our oldest friends that we all have is missing, though, and that's ATC. Sadly, our friendship has ended.
Look at that. There's a block button right here. Just give us that.
With ATC.
What? I'll have no friends at all then.
So this is now just a dedicated space for your real friends. So you're now going to be able to see what those real friends are doing with richer presence information. So giving you better awareness of where your friends are, what they're doing, or if they're not on, when they were last seen.
Yeah, I'm tracking you now, buddy. It reminds me of my Xbox Live friends list that slowly over the years started to turn in. Last online 5 years ago. And you're like, oh, we're old now.
And then you'll also be able to reflect your own status. So you can let friends know if you're away, don't want to be disturbed, or if you just want to hide offline for a while. Another key upgrade is synchronizing with Spectrum as well. So you'll be able to see friends that are in Spectrum itself, Arena Commander, or just chilling on the launcher. And that also means that you can accept and receive invites to and from Spectrum even while you're offline. And throughout this presentation, any functionality that is shared between the game and the web and the launcher, we're aiming to synchronize across all. And speaking of synchronizing, when we have multiple characters, your friends will be shared across all of them too.
Nice.
That's also a really, really big point that they made during this that they completely skipped over otherwise. As far as I'm aware, this is the only time in at least the last half decade that anybody has mentioned the idea. This might be the only time I can think of, correct me if I'm wrong, that anybody has ever publicly said we could have multiple characters. I know it's been kind of assumed, especially with the latest character creator and the ability to save characters and stuff. I don't think anybody's ever said specifically that your account could have multiple characters, though. Because it used to be, people used to think the whole Agent Smith thing would work. And then it was like, well, I'll just have a second account. But the idea of having different characters is an interesting one. Chris did? Of course Chris did. Chris says all the things.
We have multiple characters. Your friends will be shared across all of them too.
Nice. So some people are real socialites. I know, I've seen them. They have a lot of friends. I'm talking multiple pages and pages of friends. What are we doing to help management of huge friends list?
Huge.
Nice humble brag, Ben. Well, in fact, we are giving you the ability to add notes to your friends list so you can remember, hey, this is that cosplayer that I met at CitizenCon 2954. Or maybe it's JJ's super weird username. This is JJ. Also, you can add people to a favorites list, meaning that the people that you interact...
I really hope that there's some way to have this not show up if like there's a streamer mode in Star Citizen, because the kinds of notes I'm going to put on some of your names on here
with most in the game are always going to be shown at the top of your friends list for your convenience. Additionally, we're moving the voice chat into the social app. And, well, why? Who are you going to call? That's the question. You're going to call your friends. You're going to call your party. So this is where it should live.
Seem to have got a lot of UEC there as well, Ben.
I swear to God, I didn't dupe any cargo. This is just my personal allowance.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so that's all cool for your close buddies, but the one thing that always happens when you meet people is that some of them aren't nice.
You know what would be cool for reporting is anytime somebody reports a player, I guess this could be really... Anytime somebody clicks the report button on a player, they get taken to the website and they have to fill out a whole page. But at the end of all of that, when you fill out that page, it actually sends... No, they couldn't do that. That'd be crazy. I was thinking it records like the last 30 seconds of anybody's gameplay and then saves that as soon as you make a report. But that would be an insane amount of work. I guess unless you were doing it on the client side, maybe just deleting, keeping it on a loop and deleting every 5th clip. And then your computer saves that clip if you make a report and sends it to the mod. Well, yeah, a chat log, but what if they're doing something in game? The QR link would be cool, but then you'd have to have a QR code on your screen all the time while you're playing the game. Maybe an invisible one.
Abusers, pad rammers, active griefers, you know? Currently, we can't do anything about that in the game. What are we doing to help the situation?
I would say it should automatically send it, but if you make the process too easy, then people will spam it so much that it doesn't work. You got to put some kind of friction there to make sure people aren't just sending every report willy-nilly for the smallest thing, you know?
So in addition to the friends list, we're also now going to have a block list. And we like to think of block people as reverse friends. They're just people that you really don't want to talk to anymore. So what we're trying to do is we're doing something called blackholing them from communications. So you can't see them talk, and they can't see you talk anymore. And not only for communications, whenever you see some of these other systems we're about to talk about where you can group up, we're going to make it harder for you to see each other as well.
I wonder how they would show people physically that another player is blocked. Because then they can't hear you through VoIP, and you'd have to show them that somehow.
Now, we also have a much requested hostiles list for people who have made a real enemy of you as well.
The KOS list is finally making its way in.
Oh, yeah. You'll also be able to add notes here as well, just so you can remember that person I blocked 2 years ago. You remember why, because you're going to forget. And then for those situations where someone really wants to go the extra mile to be a super mega ass, you can report them to us, and we'll deal with them for you.
All right, so now I have my friends list up to date. I can find my friends easily based on rich presence in real time, and I'm ready to go on an adventure. But for that, I need a party. The party is at the core of the social experience when you're heading into a mission, meeting with other players, or whether they're a friend or not. Our party system is very bare bones at the moment. It does have some cool features, but what are we planning to improve parties?
Yeah, so as you said, it does have some cool features like party launching, the party markers, quantum syncing. It's all good stuff, but let's take a closer look at the new features of the party list.
So I think some of this stuff is kind of content. Like getting party markers up to the standard of working for this system is sort of them just fixing the party markers that are already there. So some of this I don't really take as being features, kind of, right? Like not super in-depth new additions, but rather just getting the additions that already exist upgraded to something. That's the only reason why I think this might be stuff that's a little bit closer at hand. But I still do wish that we could have seen something functioning from this. I hope we do too. Really hope we do.
So, with server meshing,
this was November.
We are right now at a unique opportunity for us. So we already support large parties, but we want to do this well. We have been seeing what you do in the tech previews, and people have been partying up in hundreds.
100 plus people in one ship? Come on!
And that's all right. We just want to make sure that we're adding better support for this, like search functionality, making it easy to find people in your party. Also, just like we did with the friends list, we're adding rich presence here as well. But for the party, you're going to want more real-time gameplay-related info, like if someone's downed or dead or maybe offline for some reason. A big thing, though, is the ship and seat breakdown. So you will see. Yeah, maybe that's worth applause. So you will see all the vehicles that your party members are in, as well as the seat that they are in. This will give you great situational awareness and allows you to coordinate better than ever before. It's essentially a mini fleet manager.
They didn't mention it, but I hope that this is what limits your VoIP. So you can make voice channels based on the ships and the seats and stuff.
Okay. Oh. So there's going to be more improvements as well. So you're going to be able to control permission for invites. So only your leaders and assistant leaders can actually invite people. So it's no longer an absolute free-for-all. And we're adding an absolute MMO staple as well, which is the ready check. So as we add more and more challenging group gameplay, you're going to be able to coordinate a lot better. And while we're talking about group play, and maybe it's unwanted group play in this case, we're improving the quality of life for our streamers as well. So we'll no longer have a shared player list. We're going to be obscuring things like your on-screen name and location and so on, just so you're a bit harder to find while you are streaming. And that's the full friends and party tab.
Pretty cool.
It's a party for the eyes.
So that's that's the moderation kind of stuff. We got GII down here somewhere. We got the folks down here. That's kind of the party and moderation stuff, and really mostly what they've said about it. The rest of this is getting into other systems that are pretty exciting, looking for group systems, the new chat. So this is something we could look at. The new chat system would be something that needs moderation tools as well. See what they say.
Well, let's chat about chats. So we're adding options for you to customize the chat window, giving you the power to make the chat your own. We're also adding chat tabs.
We're bringing back tabs.
We're bringing them back from other games. And this means that you can set up customizable views, filtered for any area of the game that you are interested in. And Ben, you had a UI team make a little mock-up of some of the other functionality we're adding, right?
I sure did. I also got them to add the combat login.
That's sweet. How kind of you. So, first off, as we can see here, we're making slash commands actually useful. So no longer just chicken dancing and flexing. It's going to be able to help you send messages to party, to proximity chats with say and slash yell commands as well.
Cool. So proximity text chat is not something that I heard before. So say and yell on the text-based medium will match our voice capabilities in game. That's good.
As sending DMs to other players. What the hell, Ben? You said you were going to take that
Hey, you wanted a real example.
Sure. So, another thing we're adding is that we're giving you the power to share information more easily via links. So, first off, here we have contract links, taking you to the contract manager for that specific contract.
Cheesecake!
Yes, cheesecake.
Yeah, cheesecake is maybe better than Centofret.
Yeah, there's going to have to be autocomplete for this kind of stuff.
Also, we are adding star map links. Let's have a look at what that looks like. This means that you can click the link and it will take you to the exact location in the star map, making it easy for you to group up.
I mean, that's essentially data running right there. But I'll be interested in knowing how. So if you can send a location via chat like that, why would you physically run it? So they'll have to figure out how those two differ. But this is the new chat app. More filtering, proximity-based chat is great. And they didn't mention anything about moderation here, but I'm guessing the blocking obviously fits into this chat too.
Another thing we're adding is item links. And, well, you'll see why you want to link items in our Crafting Your Home presentation tomorrow. Lastly, we're adding player links to make it easy for you to connect your friends with one another, right? So while we're talking about comms, Sean just messaged us about VoIP. Do you want to invite him to the party?
Yeah, so that's text-based stuff, and really a look at kind of what they've been saying about moderation and things. We don't know anything about timelines. They haven't given us any updates since this in monthly reports, but we'll keep watching it over the next several months, because clearly it's becoming more important to people, and as the game plays better, we're just going to get more folks coming in. So we'll keep an eye on this. Hopefully it comes later this year, but there's chat and moderation. Oh no. A local chat would be nice to have. 20 clicks when in ship and 1 click when on foot. Yeah, that could be good. Real quick, give me 1 second, folks. All right. This stuff is great, and honestly, it's super basic stuff. Nothing that Slack can't do, or even IRC back in the 1990s. Yeah, it's not super advanced stuff. The real novelty of it is just that it works with Star Citizen's systems. The moderation stuff is important, but I do like that it can hyperlink, basically. Chat links only work with player-wide QT markers. Hey, there you go. Good call, Monk. Not even Discord, but a dedicated app that uses an overlay would probably be the best way to do it. Like if they were going to make a real life app. Maybe CIG will buy Discord. Oh my god. I hope not. I have made my switch over from wanting companies to acquire other companies to just wanting them to compete with one another now. Whatever it is, I bet Spectrum is a big part of how we're supposed to, like, they have to make Spectrum crucial to use so that people don't just use Discord instead. Any other, yeah, Spectrum, fair. Any other questions you guys have about things going on? News stuff? Drama stuff? Things stuff? Anything before we reconvene for Wednesday for another Star Citizen chat and cooking stream? The cooks. The cooking. Le cook. Really are a lot of people asking for mod tools. I bet somebody at the company is probably lighting a fire about it. Nothing other than you just want all your RSI ships in game. What have I been up to in game? I've been doing a lot of the Hathor stuff in the PTU. That's been my main thing. And then a little bit of like taking over outposts in Pyro and contested zones. Lots of combat stuff. I am a FPS combat person at heart. I come from Halo, Battlefront, Star Wars Republic Commando, Resistance Fall of Man, Call of Duty, Battlefield, Medal of Honor. I don't know. Take your pick. The 2000s was like a gigantic hodgepodge of FPS shooters and RPGs for me. So that's generally what I gravitate towards when it's available. But I am waiting for like the handyman stuff and engineering stuff and a little more aspects of exploration to become an option. Most anticipated 4.1x update to the game, either feature or content. I'm going to say it's a whole package of features. It's everything that makes it possible to find and sell data on locations and objects. Or crafting. That sounds good too. Misfit, thank you for the super chat. Want to be able to land in your friend's hangar. Yeah, that's a simple ask, right? The more reports they get, the more work they have to do, and the more focus they'll give to automated systems. True. I think that's inevitable, though. Hoping the complex gameplay scares away all the toxic folks. Nonsense. They'll just make it less complex. Who's the coolest person you've ever met in-game? The coolest person I've ever met in-game. There was this really, really kind Pico stuffed animal that I adventured with for a couple weeks. We had some fantastic moments. The bar is high, I'm sorry. Pico is something special. Oh, yeah, Rig. It's Rig. This guy that I know named Rig, who, he's, I don't know, he likes mining or something. Yeah. The new velocity and mass ship ramming damage system. Yeah, that's an interesting one, because I think they're going to mention that more in the patch watch. But it is an interesting one. It's something, as far as being physics related, it's interesting to see them doing physics work like that. There's physics in this game. Well, you all know. All right, before we go, let's check if there's anything else interesting on Reddit to look at. This looks like the questions are done for the day. Oh yeah, so these kinds of ship balancing stuff, this is what I was talking about with 4.1. Oh, that reminds me. There was one little last bit of cool kind of like backpack storage inventory stuff that I forgot to mention too. Don't know when it's coming out, but if we go all the way back to this one? This cool little system that they decided to introduce and then never tell us about again.
Okay, awesome. So hopefully you guys that played Pirate Playground, you will have seen a few of those assets being showcased. So as we saw from the video, pouches and storage are a key part of the Frontier aesthetic. This drives the feeling of survivability. But from here, we thought it'd be really cool to give the functionality, but also some customization options. So let's take a look at a video we just developed internally, and this is for modular storage items on the player.
So I'm guessing we won't see this until after the new inventory. Because this might be built around a new understanding or functionality that the inventory builds in. Now that that's a requirement. The idea basically being that you have these little mini backpacks almost that can store a small amount of stuff you can put on your legs and your arms and things. And it's like, right now we have core armor storage because we have pockets in our armor. But if you're wearing clothes, then maybe this would be more useful. And this might be something that we just don't see until they're focusing more on starwear and clothes. And the idea of you're not just wearing armor, you're wearing clothes. I do think that there might be some big reasons they build into this game for us to wear clothes. They might make armor actually very stamina draining. And for that reason, maybe when we're on planets, we'll be more incentivized to take that stuff off. Inventory UI is getting a whole redo.
Pretty cool, right? So I think this.
And then they talk about extreme weather protection, which is kind of what we were talking about with the medical stuff before. And then armor stuff. Actually, they keep going.
Over. So to their environment.
Let's see, what do they say about actual armor itself?
You can see them here, right? Now, I wanted to use it as a starting point to establish the Duster's design language. So here we can see the Duster's gang lineup showing armor leveling and rarity. So as a player, you'll have horizontal armor progression. This will define your role and playstyle. Then you'll have vertical progression. This is your progression within that role and playstyle. For example, a common bounty hunter armor set will be weaker than a legendary, and as armor progresses in strength, it's harder to acquire.
So this was kind of worrying when they first talked about this, because we didn't have the context of, well, we didn't have the context of both this, which told us about armor and item stats. Where is that? Here? We didn't have this, but we also didn't have this. Which was like, so it was like, okay, what does it mean for it to have better wear resistance and stuff? When they were laying it out here, it almost sounded like it was just going to be like arbitrary stats just added. With the crafting, it does sound like it has more meaning, but we'll still have to see.
So harder missions, rarer drops, higher reputation. Now, as we're talking a little bit about armor sets, let's recap a little. So the goal is that players should consider which armor to equip based on the role they wish to fill and the scenario they're heading into. There will be also greater differences between the current armor types. So light, medium, and heavy, and this will be in protection and mobility. New armor categories will be combat, specialist, utility, and support.
So I just mentioned, I think that there's a specialist armor being worked on the recent monthly report. We read that, and then some other armor is being added in 4.1.
And these will define the type of items that are quickly available on the slots of the suit. There will also be additional functionality to assist in your chosen role. A matrix of armor type versus category will provide a variety of roles, with each providing best-in-class benefits. There will also be hindrances to out-of-role gameplay. For example, if you're wearing a heavy armor set and you're trying to fly a little snub fighter, you'll have restricted visibility and less vehicle control.
So, let's see if that stuff starts happening with 4.1. But that's about it, everybody. We quieted down a little bit tonight. How about we call it a day and reconvene on Wednesday for a grand old time, maybe some gameplay and stuff. Maybe we'll do some good stuff. Maybe we'll get out and practice some mining, see how mining has changed in 4.1 in the PTU. I appreciate you all, as always, being here for the good stream, the good time. Monday streams are fun day streams. I like going through just like general chatting and what's going on. Who knows, maybe the more we do this, if these get longer, I'll like take some stuff in Discord where we could go over that as well. We do some of this stuff outside of Star Citizen. I was actually going to talk about the Verse project today, but it's still, I'm waiting for it to get its moon landings. So we'll get back to that at some point. It looks like it's got something good happening pretty soon. Over the next next couple of months, actually. Thank you for the bits, Maverick. Thank you for the support. Everybody who supported today, I appreciate you. Everybody who sat and watched, thank you. If you chatted, I hope you enjoyed, got some entertainment out of it, got to enjoy yourself. Treat yourselves well today. Go eat something you love. Give somebody a hug if you love them. You know, all the things. Like, just have a good day. You deserve it. Enjoy it. I'll catch you again on Wednesday. Remember, we're going to be doing a cooking stream, and we'll be getting back into game to play. I'm going to send you over to Jake Acapella right now. They are currently streaming, I think, going to get into Star Citizen. Make sure to get in there, drop the toes, drop the gang. Let them know where you come from. Spread the tomato love, and I will catch you all later. Once again, have a good day. Sleep well, or wake well, whatever. And do yourself solid. Toes gang, everybody. Peace.